Will the meeting please come to order? Today is Tuesday, October 15th, 2024. This is the 25th regular meeting of the current term of the Metropolitan Council of Nashville and Davidson County. Will all members of the council, as well as the public, please rise for the invocation and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. The invocation is being offered this evening by Eric Ashley. Mr. Ashley is the lead pastor of Parks Church and is the guest of District 20 Council member Rollin Horton. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here. Let's pray together. Gracious God, we come now to ask your favor on tonight's meeting. This is a unique time in history. Never has this group of people gathered in this way for these reasons, and so it's got significance and weight and possibility. So we pray, as your word teaches us to pray, that your kingdom would come, your will would be done tonight as it is in heaven. For the policies and initiatives that are according to your will, I pray that they would pass, that you would bless them. Things that for some way are contrary or in your wisdom do not accord with your will, would they not pass? And would you give us the humility to rest and trust in you? Pray for the relationships in this room tonight, for those that have worked together for sometimes months, sometimes years, and have history, that you would help them to love one another, to forgive one another, to work together for the common good. And God, in your word, you tell us that you're coming again to make all the sad things come untrue, to set up a kingdom in full. Until then, you've given us a restorative work to do. So I thank you for these servants who are called to serve this city. And I pray that you would bless them tonight in their work. In Jesus' name, amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. Thank you, Pastor Ashley. Okay, folks. Early voting for the November 5th election starts tomorrow at 12 locations all across the county for 14 days through October 31st. And so we always encourage Nashvillians to take advantage of early voting and to follow the Davidson County Election Commission as the primary trusted source for election information, including your sample ballots, schedules, deadlines, and procedures. Thank you in advance to everyone working at the polls in the coming weeks. Voting is essential to uphold our democracy, so let's all work to make sure that Nashville has its highest participation ever. Also, regarding the Tuesday, November 5th election, which falls on what would be a regular meeting of the council, per council rules of procedure and the charter, I have called the meeting to be instead on Thursday, November the 7th. Monday committees will shift to Wednesday, November 6th, and Tuesday committees will shift to Thursday prior to the council meeting. And so that has been publicly noticed even as of the prior meeting, but we just want to make sure as we're deferring items this evening and talking about the next meeting that folks are aware that that will be Thursday, November the 7th. Members received notice from me yesterday via memo and also on your desks of 2 vacancies on the Health and Education Facilities Board. Members will be called upon to make nominations at that November 7th meeting. Interviews will be November 19th and elections on December 3rd. October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, as I shared at last meeting. And so I want to thank everyone who attended the 20th anniversary of the Meet Us at the Bridge event earlier this month to honor 10 lives lost in Nashville to domestic violence homicide in 2024. And extend a special congratulations and thank you to Councilmember Brenda Gadd, who was the recipient of the Outstanding Government Official Award at that event. I know Public Health and Safety Chair Evans has shared by email today, also a letter on your desk about a series of special meetings of her committee regarding domestic violence offender accountability. But I also want all members to hear from me that your attendance is very much encouraged and appreciated. I look forward to seeing as many of you as possible tomorrow in this chamber at 4 o'clock and at the In Her Shoes simulation experiential event the following Wednesday. You will have received just shortly ago a calendar invitation from Ms. Hayes Shacklet. So please make sure to reply to that no later than noon this coming Tuesday so that our hosts will know how many of us are joining them for that experiential court watching opportunity. And then lastly, and just as importantly, the final meeting of the series on October 30th, when we'll hear from criminal justice system representatives. Okay, and then last but not least, we have a Girl Scout troop with us this evening. So we want to recognize Brownie Troop, or rather Girl Scout Troop 171 from St. Bernard Academy. It was my pleasure to chat with these girls in my office earlier. Welcome to you. Okay. Without objection, we will suspend the calling of the roll and ask the clerk to record the names of the members present throughout the meeting. Is there a motion for the approval of the minutes of September 17th? Okay. There's a motion properly seconded, and so without objection, okay, the minutes of the meeting of September 17th are approved. Mr. Clerk, are there any messages from the mayor?
There are no messages from the mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Okay, now we're moving into section E of our agenda, elections. Okay. First is item E1 regarding the Contract and Compliance Board. This is for a council member to serve as a non-voting member of the board with the term expiring October 15th, 2026. Councilwoman Sepulveda was nominated by Councilmember Parker. And with only one nominee, we can take this vote by voice. Okay? All in favor of Ms. Sepulveda being elected to serve on the Contract and Compliance Board, please say aye. Any voting no? Any abstaining? Okay, council has elected Pro Tem Sepulveda. Congratulations. Okay, next, item E2, also regarding the Contract and Compliance Board. This is the consideration of nominees for 2 vacancies to be filled by members of the community with terms expiring October 15th, 2026. I believe Ms. Darby Shabb requested a report from Chair Prepty. Mr. Prepty, can you provide a report, please, regarding the Contract and Compliance Board? Ms. Sepulveda, we know you well, so, but if you would repeat then for that as well, I would appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Prepty. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. The committee considered the nomination of Councilmember Sepulveda and voted 5 in favor, 0 against, 1 not voting.
Thank you. Okay. And then as well, if you'd go ahead for item E2.
The Rules Confirmation and Public Elections Committee considered the nomination of the Honorable Gloria Hauser as well as Jayla Thomas and voted respectively 6 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting.
Okay, I'm sorry. This is item E2 first, Chair, if you would.
Apologies.
So we're on item E2 regarding the Contract and Compliance Board.
Getting a little ahead of myself.
No
My
worries.
Apologies, Vice Mayor. Yes, we considered the nominations of Ann Barnett as well as Dante Gleaves and voted 6 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting respectively.
Okay, and I also heard your report as well for the Housing Trust Fund Commission, which was for item E3.
Correct.
So we've already got that into the record. Okay. Thank you, Chair Prep T. Okay, colleagues, having heard the report regarding all folks up for election, we'll now go back to item E2. And with only 2 nominees for 2 vacancies, we can likewise vote by voice, but we will take them up separately. Okay? All right, so all in favor of the election of Ann Barnett to the Contract and Compliance Board, please say aye. Any voting no or abstaining? Okay, council has elected Ann Barnett to the Contract and Compliance Board. Next, thank you, Ms. Barnett. Next is Dante Gleaves, who is nominated by Ms. Toombs. You've heard the report of Chair Prep T. We can again take this by voice. All in favor of the election of Dante Gleaves to the Contract and Compliance Board, please say aye. Any voting no or abstaining? Okay, council has elected Dante Gleaves. Congratulations. Okay, next, colleagues, for item E3, this is for the Housing Trust Fund Commission, consideration of nominees to fill 1 vacancy on the commission with a term expiring September 17th, 2029. As there is just 1 vacancy and there are 2 nominees, we will do this vote on your tablet. Okay. Mr. Clerk, would you please, having already heard the report of Chair Prep T, would you please open the machines for the vote? Okay, all votes are in. Mr. Clerk, please show the vote. Ms. Darby, we require 21 votes for election. And thus, at this juncture. Okay.
There's only 2 candidates and we have to have 20.
Okay. Ms. Darby has advised, Mr. Clerk, that we will take the vote again. Mr. Clerk advises all votes are in. Again, just for everyone's awareness, this does require 21 votes for election. Mr. Clerk, please show the vote. Council has elected Jayla Thomas. Congratulations to Jayla Thomas, and as well a special thank you to the Honorable Gloria Hauser for her willingness to serve. We appreciate you both, and we appreciate all who were elected this evening to serve. So thank you. Let's congratulate them, please. Okay, next we are moving into section F of our agenda, appointees and nominees. This portion of the agenda shares all persons that were scheduled to appear before the Rules, Confirmations, and Public Elections Committee this evening. Referrals back to the committee will be by rule as part of the council's two-meeting process for all elections and confirmations. No votes will be taken by the body in this section of the agenda other than for deferrals. Chair Prep T, committee report, please, first for any withdrawals or deferrals, sir. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. We considered the reappointment of Jerry Pentecost and voted 6 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting for an indefinite deferral.
Okay. Is that the only deferral or withdrawal, Mr. Prep T?
There is a motion to suspend the rules on one
Okay,
individual.
let's then first take up this indefinite. Okay, I believe perhaps is F3, sir, also? Hospital Authority Board, Frank Stevenson?
Yes, that is for a one-meeting deferral.
Okay.
8 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting.
Okay, all right. So, Chair Prep T, if you would make a motion regarding item F1, the Auditorium Commission, the indefinite deferral as recommended by your committee of Mr. Jerry Pentecost, please.
So moved.
Is there a second? Okay, is there any discussion on the indefinite deferral motion for Mr. Pentecost? Okay, seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Any voting no or abstaining? Okay, that is indefinitely deferred. Okay, we're going to skip ahead again so we can dispose of our deferrals to agenda item F3 regarding the Hospital Authority Board, the reappointment of Frank Stevenson for a term expiring on July 11th, 2029. You heard the report of Chair Prep T recommending a one-meeting deferral. Chair, could you make a similar motion, please?
Move for a one-meeting deferral.
Okay, is there a second? Is there any discussion on this deferral motion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Any voting no or abstaining? Okay, all right, that is also deferred one meeting. Okay, Chair, it's back to you for a continuation of your report, sir.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. We considered the appointment of Mikhail Houghton to the East Bank Authority and voted 5 in favor, 0 against, 1 not voting to suspend the rules to permit the committee to interview Ms. Houghton at our next subsequent meeting.
Okay. Let's see. Ms. Darby, would you recommend that we dispose of that item first, separate from the others? Can we take that up separately? Is it as a part of that other item?
I think we would want to dispose of those.
Okay. All righty. Okay, so colleagues, you have heard the report of Chair Prep T regarding the suspension of the rules relative to the steps of the interview process for Ms. Houghton. Let's see, I guess Chair Prep T, do you want to advance that motion or does someone else want to do so? I guess I think you would need to make the motion, Chair, because I can't really recognize out of turn, and then we'll see if there is any objection.
So moved.
Okay, Mr. Prepty has moved a suspension of the rules. Is there any objection to the suspension of the rules? Okay, seeing none, the rules are suspended. And so, Chair Prepty, I guess then if you would make a motion likewise to defer her interview to the meeting of November 7th.
So moved, Madam Vice Mayor.
Okay, is there a second? Okay, is there any discussion on the motion to defer the interview of Ms. Mikhail Houghton for consideration of East Bank Development Authority? Okay, seeing no discussion. Oh, Ms. Weiner, go ahead, ma'am. Let's see. Hang on, Ms. Weiner. There you are. Go ahead.
Great. Thank you, Vice Mayor. I appreciate it. I just wanted to provide a little perspective around this particular deferral. First of all, life happens. And sadly, in this case, death has happened. And I don't know that we necessarily dealt with that when we were looking at the rules. Now, while I believe in consistency, I think it's really important that we consider life events. And it may be something that we want to look at in the future insofar as the rules that we have in front of us. But that said, I think that we're honoring this woman's angst. I think we're honoring her pain and her suffering, and something that she had no control over. And so the committee decided to defer this in order to give her the opportunity to not miss out on being able to provide her service to the city. Thank you.
I appreciate the additional explanation by way of discussion. Ms. Stiles, is there anything you want to discuss regarding this deferral? Yep, go ahead. You're recognized.
Thank you, Councilmember Sepulveda. I just wanted to stand in support of this deferral. I find this case disturbing. And if something happened on our watch, I don't think this feels like we're throwing money at it. And as I had my own
No,
am I?
Ms. Stiles, we're
Okay.
discussing the deferral of an interview for somebody
Oh,
for the East
sorry.
Bank Authority.
Sorry, I'm preparing for that one. Sorry.
Okay, all right. Okay, I appreciate Ms. Weiner. We do extend our condolences to Ms. Houghton and to her family. Thank you for that explanation. Okay, seeing no further discussion, the motion then is to, as I understand it, Chair Prepty, would be to defer the consideration to the next meeting, and then there would also be the vote that same evening. So we're going to pull those together. Okay, Chair Prepty is acknowledging that is the motion.
Correct.
It has been seconded prior. We've heard the discussion. All in favor of the motion, please say aye. Any voting no or abstaining? Okay. Ms. Houghton's consideration is deferred to the meeting of November 7th. Okay. Chair Prepty, we're going to go back to you then to finish out the reporting. Let's go back to F2 East Bank Authority. If you could share the folks who were considered this evening, please, sir.
Yes, we considered Carrie Gardner, voted 6 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting, as well as Nathaniel Carter, Scott Tift, and Bob Braswell, and voted 8 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting.
Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, and then if you could just continue, please, because all of these in the regular order will be re-referred by rule, so we're not going to need to be voting anymore. So if you would just complete your report for items F4 and F5, please, sir.
Yes, considered the appointment of Erica Nichols as well as Nathan Oliver, and voted 8 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting.
Okay. And then I apologize. Did you share also about Mr. Oliver just now? Thank you.
Yes.
I'm sorry, sir. I was looking over here. Got it. Okay. So all those 4 additional East Bank Authority nominees, as well as Music, film, and entertainment, and stormwater management are going to be re-referred by rule to Chair Prep T's committee. Okay, Chair Prep T. Next is our committee report in section G for confirmations regarding these appointees in the second step of your committee's two-meeting process. Again, first for deferrals, if there are any, please, sir.
There are no deferrals, Madam Vice Mayor.
Okay. All right. So next then, please, for persons who received a unanimous vote of recommendation by the committee and a consolidated motion for those same appointees, please.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor, for the contract compliance board. We considered the Honorable Fabian Bedname, Michael Adavia, Alfredo Pena III, as well to the Convention Center Authority, Nora Bykestra, Seema Prasad, and as the Metro Director of Finance, Janine Reed, voted 8 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting, respectively.
Okay, and can you do then a consolidated motion?
So moved.
Okay, is there a second? Okay, is properly moved, properly seconded. Is any member seeking to be recognized to remove an item from the collective vote? Nope. Okay, so without objection, we'll be voting on these items together. Is there any discussion on the collective slate of appointees for confirmation? Okay, seeing none. All in favor of these folks to serve on these boards, please say aye. Any voting no or abstaining? Okay, in order, I will read those folks who were just confirmed by the council. If you were just confirmed and returned to join us in chambers this evening, that's an optional part of this process, but please do stand to be recognized when you hear your name called as I read all the names of those confirmed. First, to the Contract and Compliance Board, the Honorable former council member Fabian Bednay. Next is Mr. Michael Iadavia, also to the Contract and Compliance Board. Mr. Matt Neal, Mr. Alfredo Pena III, also to the Contract and Compliance Board. Next is the reappointment to the Convention Center Authority of Ms. Nora Bykestra. Okay, and then also to the Convention Center Authority, a reappointment of Ms. Seema Prasad. And then lastly, but certainly not least, the appointment of Ms. Janine Reed as the Metropolitan Director of Finance. Welcome, Ms. Reed, and to you too, Mr. Bednay. We are grateful to you, and we congratulate you on your confirmation. Okay, next we are moving into section H. This is our public comment period. I know we're all very glad to congratulate the Honorable Fabian Bednay and to welcome our new, welcome back, in fact, our new finance director. But let's keep moving along in our agenda. Members of the public who reside in Tennessee wishing to speak for public comment may sign up at the clerk's office counter on the day of the scheduled meeting between 5 p.m. and 6 p.m. Public comment is limited to 20 minutes total. Each speaker is allowed up to 2 minutes to speak. For public comment this evening, we have only one person who has signed up, and that is Ms. Nicole Williams for agenda item, I believe 2 items. Is that a 2? A 7 and 49? Okay, thank you for the clarification. For agenda item 2 and 49, this is RS 2024-708 and ordinance 2024-478 in opposition. Go ahead, Ms. Williams, you're recognized.
Thank you so much. So I'm starting to feel a little bit like Cassandra, because I keep coming up here and giving y'all good advice and you're not listening to me. But for the short-term rental ordinance, I noticed that none of the changes that I suggested were incorporated. That's fine. It's bad policy. I hope that everything works out well for you, but I fear the state will preempt that if you pass it as is. For the Jonathan Sod settlement, y'all need to ask some more questions. Like, seriously, I know everyone wants to turn the page, but giving Daniel Singh a settlement was supposed to turn the page. That didn't turn the page. Giving Jonathan Sod a settlement, $150,000, $150,000 is supposed to turn the page. Y'all, the page is not turning. It's not turning. We're on the same page and we're gonna be for a while because there's still dysfunction at Metro Arts. So this is not gonna fix everything. It's not gonna solve your problems. There was a lot of talk about Sod being a protected class. The woman who was hired in his place is a young Black woman who is incredibly well qualified. I encourage any of you to reach out to her, ask her about her qualifications. So this whole less qualified, whatever. And then a civil service test. I'm not aware of any civil service test for Metro Arts employees. There's a civil service test for like police and fire and public safety. But I would encourage you to ask what they're talking about there, the civil service test. And if he did score higher on said test, why would he know the score of the person who got the job? Like typically when I don't get a job, they don't tell me how the other person did in their interview. Sometimes you just don't get the job, y'all, and like that's okay. And I would just encourage you to not like sweep this under the rug. There was also some stuff in the Nashville scene about inappropriate sexual advances, alleged inappropriate sexual advances. Nobody's asking about that. And I just wonder, who has Metro Legal talked to? Because it sounds like they've only talked to Sod and his lawyers. Thank you.
Okay, that concludes public comment. Next is agenda item I, a resolution proposed for public hearing. This is agenda item 1. This is RS 2024-792. It is a, I guess first I will share, it looks like we might not need to use these services, but we always want to make sure to be clear that Spanish interpretation services are available for all council public hearings. This evening, with only one matter in front of us, we have Karina Valdez from our council office staff. Ms. Valdez, can you please share how you can help the public if we do, in fact, have a public hearing?
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Karina Valdez y seré la intérprete para esta sesión. Gracias.
Thank you, Ms. Valdez. We appreciate you. Okay, so back again then to agenda item 1, RS 2024-792, sponsors Porterfield, Evans, and Hancock. This is a resolution approving amendment number 3 to a sole source contract between the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County and Fusis LLC to increase the value, extend the term, and utilize the full scope of work, including surveillance technology. Sponsor Porterfield, Chair of Budget and Finance, you are recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Committee reports. Budget and Finance voted 5 in favor, 2 against, 0 not voting for a 2-meeting deferral with a re-referral back to committee.
Okay, thank you. Public Health and Safety Chair Evans, you're
Thank you.
recognized.
Our committee recommended a 2-meeting deferral, 11 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting.
Okay, thank you. Okay, it's back to you, Ms. Porterfield.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I have a question before I make a motion. if we open the public hearing, because I want to make sure that anyone that may have come tonight has the opportunity to speak on this. My intent is to recommend a deferral because I made it public that we were recommending a deferral. There were people that wanted to speak, but they are under the assumption that the public hearing will actually happen at the time of the deferral. It does not look like we have a lot of people here, so I don't think that we have a lot of people here to speak tonight, but I do want to open it up in case someone did come with the expectation. So is there a way that we can allow anybody to speak on it, discuss it, move the deferral, and then allow people to speak on the, when we come, assuming a deferral passes, speak when they come back?
Okay, so this is a point of parliamentary inquiry relative to the opening of the hearing and the deferral and so forth. And so I'm going to put that to Special Counsel Darby. Can you please advise and answer the questions of Ms. Porterfield?
Excuse me, the rules do allow for a subsequent public hearing. You will need to make a motion for that public hearing to set the date, and it will need to pass a 2/3 vote threshold.
Thank you, Director Darby. One more question. Would I need to make that motion before or after the motion for the deferral?
I think that
Or could they be made together?
you should probably not make them together because the motion for deferral has a lower vote threshold. So as long as you are recognized by the Vice Mayor to make your subsequent motion for a subsequent public hearing, then you can move forward at that time.
Do I do it before or after?
You can make your motion for the public hearing before or after, whichever one.
I think, Ms. Porterfield, if I may, as I understand it, and then we'll just make sure everybody's on the same page. Your hope then would be, per the advice of Special Counsel Darby, just in an abundance of caution, you intend to ask to open the public hearing so that we can inquire if there is anybody here in that regard. But then subsequent to that, having opened that public hearing, you will then make the motion for another public hearing subsequent to the deferral. Is that correct? Okay, just want to make sure we're all on the same page. Okay, go ahead, Ms. Porterfield.
I would like to open a public hearing.
Okay, I declare the public hearing open. Would all folks here to speak in favor of this matter, agenda item 1 regarding FUSIS, please raise your hands. Okay, would all those here in opposition to this matter, please raise your hands. Okay, does the member of the community here in opposition seek to speak at this time? No, Ms. Okay, with one member of the community here in opposition, you are recognized to speak in this public hearing. Go ahead. Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. Please go ahead.
My name is Nicole Williams. I live in the Nations. Sorry, Councilmember Horton. I am only speaking right now because I'm afraid that y'all won't vote to allow a public hearing to happen the next time this comes up, because I've seen y'all vote not to allow public hearings to happen on really important topics. Not y'all, but a predecessor, like half of y'all were part of that body too. So I am, as you could probably imagine, in opposition to this. I don't buy into the whole, well, it's better than it was the last time it came before y'all. Okay, if that's how we're gonna like operate government, like it's better, then just take all the cameras, y'all, truly. At this point, the way we're headed, this like most progressive council ever is becoming less and less progressive by the hour. I don't want to live in a surveillance state, and I know that sounds like a big scary word, but it's true. The more that you allow the police to have real-time and very quick access to video that they do not need 99% of the time, the more that it becomes like the only way to stay off of video and have my likeness just like uploaded to some cloud somewhere that's hackable is to stay in my house. And I don't want to have to stay in my house. I already hate it that like every house in my neighborhood has a Ring camera. I can't walk around outside without feeling like I'm being watched. I know that this version of Fusus allegedly is not going to be used for residential cameras. I don't think we have any way to ensure that. We can have MMPD write it into a policy. People break policies. Y'all, like, if we want people to trust the police, this is not the way to get them to do it. And that's all I have to say. Please allow a public hearing to happen next time, though, because if not, that would be like a miscarriage of justice. Thank you.
Seeing no one else here seeking to speak, I will declare this public hearing closed. And it is back to you, Ms. Porterfield, for a motion or motions. Go ahead.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'm going to move for a 2-meeting deferral with a re-referral back to committee. But we wanted to, so maybe this is a point of order. We didn't want to do any type of automatic deferral because we wanted people to be able to speak on the legislation on the floor in case there was anything that people needed to say today before we brought the legislation back. So with that being said, do I need to make a motion for approval first to give people the opportunity to speak and then make a motion for deferral?
You do.
Okay, move for approval.
Is there a second? Okay, properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on this resolution at this time? Okay, Chair Porterfield, seeing none, I'm back to you.
Thank you. I would like to move for a 2-meeting deferral with a re-referral back to committee, and I would like a brief comment on the purpose of the deferral.
Okay, back to both committees. Ms. Darby, can we do the deferral first and then the motion for a public hearing subsequently once it is deferred to the meeting of November 19th? Or do we need to take up, as I had understood it prior, the motion regarding the public hearing? I mean, we're in the midst of it now, so.
I think that you can do it either way as long as you.
Okay. All right. Let's, you can proceed with the deferral motion, Ms. Porterfield.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. The reason for the deferral, obviously we have a lot of, people have a lot of questions and concerns about this particular, about this technology, and we want to make sure, well, I want to make sure that council members have the opportunity to get their questions answered. I reached out to Chief Gilder to ensure that any council member who wants to see a demonstration of the technology will have the opportunity to do so, again, to get their questions answered. I think it's imperative that we hear from people in the community. When this came before us previously, we heard a lot from the community. People had a lot of questions and concerns. Those questions and concerns have not disappeared. So we want to make sure that we are addressing whichever side of this you're going to land on. We just need to make sure that we are addressing those comments and questions. So part of the 2-meeting deferral is to give council members the opportunity to reach out to Chief Gilder to set up a demonstration. Those are going to be one-on-one demonstrations so that we don't violate any type of Open Meetings Act. And that the question was asked if the demonstration could come here. It cannot come here. It's not like a mobile unit that can come here. So people will actually need to go to the location to see it. The other part of the reason for the deferral is there were some concerns about the policy as written. Previously, we didn't have a policy. MMPD did write a policy, but there are some concerns about the policy. I know Councilmember Allen went on record lifting up a few of her concerns. I also had some concerns that some of the guardrails that MMPD discussed are not explicitly outlined in the policy, and we want to make sure that those are outlined. So with that, I would ask my colleagues support the deferral as well as the subsequent motion to come about the opening the public hearing again.
Okay, so what we are on at this juncture is a motion to defer 2 meetings, that is to the meeting of November 19th, with a re-referral to both of the committees, Budget and Finance, Public Health and Safety. And so we are now on discussion on the motion to defer 2 meetings. Okay, Ms. Johnston, you are recognized.
Thank you. a one meeting deferral is over 3 weeks from now. And so I'm just wondering, since we've actually deferred this in a year, we let this go a year ago. So here we are, it's come full circle a year. If the administration has any opinion about a one meeting deferral, which again is technically over 3 weeks from now on November the 7th, or if they're okay with a two meeting deferral, if there's any implications to that.
Okay, I'm happy to direct your question to the administration. Mr. Rosenberg, you're recognized. Oh, I've got it turned on. Okay. Technical difficulties.
Thank you. Councilmember, our preference would be a one meeting deferral. We would support a one meeting deferral. To your point, it's 23 days. Normally, a two meeting deferral is 28 days, and a 23-day deferral you'd still have the opportunity at that point for further delay if you so choose, but it wouldn't bind you to a 5 week deferral.
Thank you. Can I make a one meeting deferral motion?
You may, yes.
I'd like to move a one meeting deferral.
Okay, and there's a second? Okay, so now then we are on discussion of a motion to defer one meeting. Ms. Allen, go ahead. Oh, I'm sorry. You're just so close right there. I'm just looking at you while you're talking and I'm not even turning your mic on.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Would that include re-referrals to both committees as well?
Okay, yes. It does. Okay, so properly moved and seconded, a one meeting deferral. Ms. Porterfield, you are recognized regarding the one meeting deferral motion.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. When we discussed this in committee, my intent was a one meeting deferral, and both committees considered two meeting deferral. So my intent with the two meeting deferral is honoring the will of two committees that it came before. So my preference would be a two meeting deferral to give people enough time to go and make sure that they have the opportunity to go and see the demonstration. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Prepty, on the one meeting deferral motion, go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. Colleagues, I rise in opposition to the one meeting deferral in favor of a two meeting deferral, simply because I know my colleague, Councilmember Huffman, is going to encourage all of us to visit with MNPD to view this facility, and I would encourage all of us to do the exact same. The reason why I rise in favor of a two meeting deferral over a one meeting deferral is specifically to give each and every colleague that opportunity to do that. We are a 40-member body. And we cannot do that as a conglomerated group, as Councilmember Porterfield stated, because of sunshine law reasons. So having a two meeting deferral from the outright, from the onset, will provide us the opportunity to do all of the things that we need to beforehand, before this comes back before our body, so that we're not perpetually asking for deferral after deferral after deferral to provide us all the opportunity. Taking the time to do this right is worth it. So I rise in opposition of a one meeting deferral in favor of two meeting deferral.
Thank you, Mr. Prepty. Mr. Huffman, you are recognized, sir.
Thank you, Vice Mayor, and my colleague is correct. I am going to encourage all of you to go and tour the facility. I'm speaking on behalf of a one meeting deferral simply because I believe that 23 days is an adequate amount of time to get there, to do a tour, and that could easily support us all. It also starts to bump up to the legislative calendar of some other very hot button items if we do a two meeting deferral. So I just would ask you to give a little grace to all of us as we're about to enter some tough conversations. Thank you.
Okay. Chair Evans on the one meeting deferral motion.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. So ordinarily, I'd be totally cool with a one meeting deferral. I'm kind of feeling the two meeting deferral specifically for two reasons. Number one, our meeting, the one meeting deferral is going to put us at the first meeting of the month in November, which means that we're going to have public hearing on zoning matters at that time. We're shifting our day of our meeting because of the election. So I think there's going to be some added confusion and just thought around that may dissuade people from wanting to speak about this issue or learn more about this issue in the meantime. And I think the other thing that I want to make note of is I did request from Deputy Chief Gilder a list of everybody who had attended the preview basically of the software previously. I have that list. And so it's one of those things that my time normally is, if you give people too long, they're going to wait till the last minute anyway. But it's not going to be a reasonable expectation that if you don't go in this 2-meeting deferral window potentially, that it's not going to be really good grounds for any further deferrals that you didn't have time. And so I want to eliminate, that being an issue or something that anyone attempts to, want to bring forward as a reason to continue a deferral discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Next, Councilmember Hill regarding the 1-meeting deferral motion.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. I stand in favor of the 1-meeting deferral because I really believe that 23 days is plenty long enough. I think there's a fair amount of us who have already toured it, and so I don't think we need a long extension of a lot for the rest of the folks to go through, and I think 23 days is long enough.
Thank you, Ms. Hill. Is anyone else seeking discussion on the 1-meeting deferral motion? Okay, seeing none, and this does include the same re-referral to both committees. Seeing no further discussion, properly seconded, all in favor of the 1-meeting deferral, please say aye. All against the 1-meeting deferral. Okay, Mr. Clerk, I think we have to put this one on the board. I cannot determine that by voice or by ear. Okay, with all votes in, Mr. Clerk, this vote requires a simple majority. Please show the vote. Okay, the 1-meeting deferral motion fails. Thus, we are back on the 2-meeting deferral motion. Ms. Porterfield, do you seek to be recognized further regarding that motion?
Renew my motion.
Okay. Is there a second? Okay, well, and in fact, we're back to it anyway. Okay, and so is anyone else wanting to discuss the 2-meeting deferral motion? Okay, seeing no one seeking discussion, all in favor of a 2-meeting deferral, please say aye. Aye. Any voting no? Okay, Mr. Clerk, we have 2 noes. Ms. Darby. Okay, we can just record them. That is Councilman Benton and Councilwoman Stiles voting no. Any abstentions? Okay, all right. So this is deferred 2 meetings. And now I'm back to you, Sponsor Porterfield, regarding a motion for the public hearing as previously discussed. You're recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I move to have a public hearing for the 2nd meeting in November.
Okay, that's November 19th. That is the meeting to which this bill was just deferred. Is there a second for the motion to have a public hearing? Thank you, properly seconded. Is there any discussion on the motion to have a public hearing on this matter November 19th? Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor of a public hearing for this bill on November 19th, please say aye. Aye. Any voting no? Any abstaining? Okay, so this bill, just for kind of summary clarification, is deferred 2 meetings to the meeting of November 19th with a public hearing at that time. Okay. Now we are moving into our consolidated consent agenda. All resolutions and second and third reading ordinances on this agenda are included on the consent agenda if recommended for approval unanimously by all committees to which the item was referred. Items on the consent agenda will be voted on at a single time. The item number, along with the resolution and ordinance number of the items on the consent agenda, will be read by me. Members of the council may remove any item from the consent agenda by request before the consent agenda vote is taken. Okay. Okay. I appreciate that. Hang on, colleagues. We've just got a quick note here on an error. Okay. I understand I had a question mark by those as well already. Ms. Darby, was that 48 and 49? Okay. Okay. Okay, thank you. Okay, colleagues, bear with me just here for a sec. Get this back in order. Okay, this will now begin then the reading of the consolidated consent agenda. Okay, the first item recommended for the consent agenda is agenda item 5, resolution 2024-775. Agenda item 7, resolution 2024-777. Agenda item 8, resolution 2024-778. Agenda item 10, resolution 2024-780. Agenda item 11, resolution 2024-781. Agenda item 12, resolution 2024-782. Agenda item 13, resolution 2024-783. Agenda item 14, resolution 2024-784. Agenda item 15, resolution 2024-785. Agenda item 16, resolution 2024-786. Agenda item 17, resolution 2024-787. Agenda item 18, resolution 2024-788. Agenda item 19, resolution 2024-789. Agenda item 20, resolution 2024-790. Agenda item 22, resolution 2024-793. Agenda item 23, resolution 2024-794. Agenda item 24, resolution 2024-795. Agenda item 25, resolution 2024-796. Agenda item 26, resolution 2024-797. Agenda item 27, resolution 2024-798. Agenda item 28, resolution 2024-799. Agenda item 29, resolution 2024-800. Agenda item 30, resolution 2024-801. Agenda item 31, resolution 2024-802. Agenda item 32, resolution 2024-803. Then agenda item 34, resolution 2024-805. Last among the resolutions proposed for consent is agenda item 35, resolution 2024-806. Okay. Next, bills on second reading that are proposed for the consent agenda. First among those is agenda item 50, ordinance BL 2024-552. Then agenda item 54, ordinance BL 2024-556. Agenda item 55, ordinance BL 2024-557. Agenda item 56, ordinance BL 2024-558. Agenda item 57, ordinance BL 2024-581. Okay, next moving on to bills on third reading proposed for the consolidated consent agenda. First among those is agenda item 58, ordinance BL 2024-504. Agenda item 59, ordinance BL 2024-526. Agenda item 60, ordinance BL 2024-527. Agenda item 61, ordinance BL 2024-528. Agenda item 62, ordinance BL 2024-529. Agenda item 63, ordinance BL 2024-530. Agenda item 64, ordinance BL 2024-531. And its companion bill 65 on the agenda, ordinance BL 2024-532. Next is agenda item 66, ordinance BL 2024-533. Agenda item 67, ordinance BL 2024-534. Agenda item 68, ordinance BL 2024-535. Agenda item 69, ordinance BL 2024-536. And its companion bill, agenda item 70, ordinance BL 2024-537. Agenda item 71, ordinance BL 2024-538. Agenda item 72, ordinance BL 2024-539. Agenda item 73, ordinance BL 2024-540. Agenda item 74, ordinance BL 2024-541. Agenda item 55, ordinance BL 2024-542. Agenda item 76, ordinance BL 2024-543, and its companion bill, agenda item 77, ordinance BL 2024-544. Agenda item 78, ordinance BL 2024-546. Agenda item 79, ordinance BL 2024-547. And lastly, on third reading, proposed for the consolidated consent agenda, agenda item 83, ordinance BL 2024-551. Okay. Do any items need to be removed from the consent agenda? If so, members, please join the queue to request that. Okay. Okay, Mr. Coupin, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Madam President. Agenda item 30, RS 2024-801, please.
Okay, Mr. Coupin has requested the removal of agenda item 30, resolution 801. Okay, that has been removed from consent. Councilwoman Swara, you are recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'd like to remove agenda item 34, RS 2024-805.
Okay, Councilwoman Swara has requested the removal of agenda item 34, resolution 805, and it has been removed from consent. Councilman Bradford, you are recognized, sir.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'd like to remove item 35, RS 2024-806.
Okay, Councilman Bradford has requested the removal of agenda item 35. That's resolution 806, and it has been removed from consent. Okay, Councilman Truffle, you're recognized, sir.
Yeah, Vice Mayor, I just want to confirm, I didn't hear, but item number 80, Bill 2024-548, just want to make sure it's not on consent.
Item 80 is not on consent, sir.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Ms. Stiles, you are recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'd like to pull agenda item 32, RS 2024-803.
Okay, Ms. Stiles has requested the removal of agenda item 32, resolution 803, and it has been removed from consent. Okay, Ms. Porterfield, you are recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I would like to remove item number 68, BL 2024-535.
Okay, agenda item 68 is an ordinance on third reading. Okay. It's BL 2024-535, and it has been removed from consent. Okay. Are any other members seeking to remove an item from the consolidated consent agenda? Okay, right. This time, we will proceed with our committee reports. Okay, first among those, Chair Porterfield, please, for the report of the Budget and Finance Committee on all items on consent or proposed for consent.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Budget and Finance considered RS 2024-775, 777, 778, 780, and 781. 10 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. RS 2024-782, 7 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. RS 2024-783, 8 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. RS 2024-784, 785, 786, 787, 788, 789, 790, 793, 794, 795, and 796. 10 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting.
Okay, thank you, Chair. That concludes all your items. Next, Chair Gadd for the, let's see, Ms. Gadd? Chair Gadd? Chair Gadd? For the report of the Arts, Parks, Libraries, and Entertainment Committee, please, ma'am.
Thank you so much for your patience, council members. We had, I'm going to go ahead and give all the resolutions that are on consent calendar that's part of this RS 2024-784 for passed 8 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. RS 2024-785, it passed 8 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. RS 2024-786 passed 8 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. RS 2024-787 passed 8 in favor, 0 against, and 0 not voting.
Okay, thank you, Chair Gadd. Next is the report of the Government Operations and Regulations Committee. Chair Hill, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. Item number 50, Bill 2024-552, in favor, 8 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting.
Thank you, Chair Hill. Next, then, is the report of the Planning and Zoning Committee. Chair Gamble, you are recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Planning and Zoning considered RS 2024-793, 797, 798. Also bills on second reading, Bill 2024-556, 557, 558, 581. Bills on third reading, Bill 2024-526, 527, 528, 529, 530, 531, 532, 533, 534, 535, 536, 537, 538, 539, 540, 541, 542, 543, 544, 546, and 547, and 550. All recommended approval. 8 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. And bills on third reading were,
I think those were your third reading bills.
oh, I'm sorry. I should have added them at the same time because the ones on third reading were 10 in favor, 0 against, 0. No,
Okay,
no.
all right. So all of those.
Vice Mayor, I apologize. 8 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting for all the consent items.
Thank you. Understood. Got it. Got it. Got it. No worries. Okay. And the only one among those not on consent then, Chair Gamble, is 535. Okay, got it. Okay. All right. That's planning and zoning. Planning and zoning. And next to Chair Evans for the report of the Public Health and Safety Committee.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Public Health and Safety considered RS 2024-775, 776, 777, I'm sorry, back up. 776 was not on consent.
Thank you.
777, 778, 780, 781, 782, 783, 789, 790. And we considered all those and recommended approval, 7 in favor, 0 against. And then we considered item RS 2024-799, and we recommended approval, 11 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting.
Okay.
And then we also, or we do, I'm sorry.
Let's see.
Is that it?
You have a second reading ordinance.
Okay, I see it now.
Yep.
BL 2024-552, we recommended approval, 11 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting.
Okay. Thank you, Chair Evans. Okay. Let's see. Okay, Mr. Prep T, Chair, I don't think you have many things left on consent, but go ahead, please, with your report, sir.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. The committee considered RS 2024-800 as well as 802 and voted 5 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting.
Thank you, Chair. Okay. Last but never least, Chair Parker for the report of the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee. Please, sir.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. We considered resolutions RS 2024-793, 794, 795, 797, and 798. Recommended approval of those resolutions, 8 in favor, 0 against. And bills on second reading, we considered BL 2024-556, 557, 558, and 581. Also recommending approval of all of those, 8 in favor, 0 against. And with
if you would move, yep.
With all committee reports in, I will move the consolidated consent agenda.
Okay, properly moved and properly seconded. All in favor of the consolidated consent agenda, please say aye. Any voting no or abstaining? Okay, you have passed all items on consent. Okay. So now going back for resolutions not on consent. Okay, and first among those is agenda item 2, resolution 2024-708, sponsor Porterfield. This is a resolution authorizing the Metropolitan Department of Law to compromise and settle Jonathan Sodd's claims against the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County in the amount of $150,000 to be paid from the $3 million allocated by the Director of Finance on March 21st, 2024 for the resolution of matters related to the Arts Commission. Chair Porterfield, you are recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Committee reports. Budget and Finance considered RS 2024-708 and voted 5 in favor, 2 against, 2 not voting for approval, and I would move for approval.
Okay, is there a second? Okay, properly moved. Approval is properly moved and properly seconded. Now we are on discussion on the motion to approve. First in the queue, Councilmember Stiles, you are recognized.
Thank you very much, Vice Mayor. When this came before us, I believe it was 2 meetings ago, I voted no, given all of what has transpired in Metro Arts. And we are in the midst of trying to get things to be better and to rebuild trust and transparency. This settlement is not the way. This individual, the complaint does not clearly state really that his claims are valid. I think we have received several emails concerning this settlement regarding actions that this individual engaged in during all of the shenanigans from last year. I think this is an unnecessary settlement. I think if Mr. Saad would like to move forward and take us to court, then so be it. I don't think he has a case. I don't think throwing money out of the money that has been set aside from Metro Arts is the right thing to do. And I think we would be negligent in our duties to say that this is the same as giving money to former director saying who was under so much harassment in order to leave. And then suddenly we get this judgment that seemed to come out of nowhere that we should pay this man. I don't think it's right. And I hope that we will all vote no.
Thank you, Ms. Stiles. Councilman Parker, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. So I remain very concerned about this proposed settlement. You know, the complaint centers around a failure to hire claim based on either retaliation or discrimination against a protected class. I think there are other reasons that this person was not hired that are very apparent. If you look at the complaint, paragraph 26, his application was not considered despite Mr. Saad's overwhelming qualification for all three of the positions and the fact that he was currently successfully performing one of the three jobs. That position was the contract grant manager position. The application period referenced here is on or about July 30th, 2023. If y'all think back to the discussions we've been having about Metro Arts, that was the period when the Arts Commission voted for an equitable arts funding formula in July. A decision which was reversed in August by the commission, has had disastrous results. We have spent the last 16 months trying to clean that mess up, trying to address that. So, you know, the claim that he was successfully currently performing one of the jobs and thus felt entitled to this position, I think is absurd given what we know was happening at Arts at the time. And I understand there are some procedural challenges with defending this case from Metro's perspective. Namely that then Director Daniel Singh is not in Nashville, presumably has not been served. There's no return in the system. And I understand that, but there were other people involved in this hiring process. I believe panels were assembled to look at the applicants for all of these jobs. Presumably not all of those people have left Nashville in the last year. Some of them are probably Metro people. I don't know the composition of those panels, but there are people who are familiar with the situation that Metro can ask to be deposed, to be witnesses, et cetera. And I understand it might be challenging, but with my no vote on this settlement, I'm asking Metro Legal to do that and to go defend Metro in this case. Lastly, you know, there's a lot of talk about turning the page here. I don't think we're turning the page by using the set-aside arts fund to settle this claim. I think we have done virtually nothing to address the central conflict that a lot of this arose out of, which is the question of equitable arts funding, which is, you know, what is the balance between small organizations getting funding versus these large legacy organizations getting funding? That tension has not been resolved. The corrective actions that the mayor's office and that we took just added more money to make everyone whole in that process. We have not addressed the balance, the fundamental tension there between funding these legacy orgs and funding the small organizations. And this settlement would do nothing to get us any closer to resolving that tension. So I'll be voting no.
Thank you, Mr. Parker. Councilwoman Welsh, you're recognized, ma'am.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I rise against going ahead with the settlement with Mr. Saad. The claim that Mr. Saad made is extremely vague, and he offers no documentation or evidence to support anything that he claims was the behavior of Metro. In these last few weeks, as I have been researching this, when I asked for the deferral, I have heard some very disturbing things about Mr. Saad and his behaviors when he was in this position prior to being hired through the temp agency. And I think that had Metro Legal done any sort of investigation, they would have run into some of the same issues that I was hearing about, which I won't bring up since they have not yet been brought up in this, but I feel like those are issues that need to be explored before we make any type of settlement. I also feel that this settlement is way out of proportion to what we have offered other employees within Metro, particularly women. And tonight we're being asked to settle with a woman who lost her child due to negligence on the part of Metro, and she is being offered $50,000 less than Mr. Saad is requesting. I also feel that in the complaint, the numbers aren't adding up in terms of what his temp contract said his salary was and what he is claiming he is owed for outstanding salary. And I feel like this sets a bad precedent for Metro, or continues a bad precedent, actually, that we allow people to make claims against Metro and Metro Legal decides simply to settle them. So we never really do get a full hearing and reading on what the situation is and whether or not we are really at fault at things. We know that Metro is at fault at many things, many times, but not all the time. And I feel like it continuing this precedent is to our detriment. So I ask my colleagues to please vote against this settlement. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Welsh. Councilman Huffman, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. So my colleagues before me did a really good job of outlining the holes in this complaint. So I'm not even going to cover that. What I am going to cover is the fact that there is a checks and balances system in our form of government. And this is one of those times that I feel that it is imperative to be a check. Councilmember Welsh highlighted the wrongful death suit that we're going to be taking up just shortly, actually. And it was less than this amount. I think that is just absurd to start with. And $150,000 isn't even what Mr. Saad asked for. We met him in the middle. Think about that. $150,000 goes a long way, and it especially goes a long way when you're pulling money away from artists. And this is where this money is coming from. I've got a fundamental disagreement with that because at the end of the day, we need to be giving our artists a chance in this city. And I'll close with yesterday in Budget and Finance, Metro Legal made a statement, actually twice, stating that this was a business decision. I don't think we need to be in the business of taking away money from thriving artists. I think we need to be in the business of defending the city of Nashville, and we need to be litigating this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Huffman. Ms. Sepulveda, Pro Tem Sepulveda, you are recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I don't usually abstain, but I just want to go on the record. I do have a conflict of interest, so I will need to be abstaining on this vote.
Okay, thank you, Pro Tem. Mr. Clerk, if you would please make a note of that. Ms. Vo, you're recognized, ma'am.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I also rise in opposing this settlement because to me it undermines the seriousness of discrimination and claims by opting for a resolution outside the court system. Discrimination is a profound issue that impacts not only individuals but communities, and it deserves a rigorous examination in a legal setting where evidence can be presented and rights can be protected. Settling such matters in the chambers risks allowing injustices to go unaddressed and may also set a dangerous precedent that encourages future discrimination. A court's involvement ensures transparency, accountability, and adherence to the rule of law. And so by bypassing this process, we diminish the importance of legal remedies and the need for public awareness and discussion surrounding discrimination. So I just want to make sure that, it's really crucial that we take such cases seriously and we resolve them through a judicial system so that they can be served and that we deal with discrimination head on. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Vo. Councilman Prep T, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. I have significant concerns, but from the outset, I appreciate Councilmember Welsh for raising the comparisons between the two settlements that we are going to be taking under consideration this evening. And I would like to pose a question through the chair to either Metro Legal or Metro Finance or to somebody at the administration table, specifically as to how the valuation of this settlement agreement was brought about. If I could pose that question through the chair.
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Prep T. To the administration, from Metro Legal, if you would please introduce yourself to respond to Mr. Prepty's question.
Good evening, Council. I'm Melissa Roberge, and I'm one of the senior litigators on this case. I believe your question was about how did we come up with the settlement value? And so this case is in its early stages, but we've done a lot of homework on it. We've gotten documents from Human Resources. We have talked to people. We have reviewed the interview process. We have reviewed what the current person in that manager, in the arts manager, grant manager position, what they are making. We have looked at what the current back pay would be, the available damages under the law, plus what he would need to, what this case would need to proceed to trial. So in the state court system, the burden for filing a complaint is very, very low. You don't have to include all of your evidence and all of your documents. That's what the discovery process is for. And most of those documents are in Metro's possession. So we have the ability to do some of our own initial research. And in looking at this case, we try to take both an objective view, which is what would a court or a jury do with this case? And then we try to also put on our advocate's hat. What arguments can we make in favor of the Metro government? And when we're taking that objective view, we think it's likely that this case proceeds to trial. And at a trial, juries are unpredictable and will have kind of an entire range of options. And so we look at what could be the outcome and what's the likelihood of that outcome. At this point, it's probably 50-50 on if we would prevail. Maybe less, given the challenges with Director Singh and some of those credibility issues. And so then we try to figure out what could be his best day in court. In this case, it would exceed $300,000. And so 50% of $300,000 is $150,000. So we put all of that, there isn't a formula, we put all of that kind of into the calculus to recommend a settlement that we think is in the best interest of the Metro government.
If I may, Madam Vice Mayor.
Yes, just said.
I have another brief or another question that I'd like to pose to through the chair. If
You may go ahead, because that was a lengthy reply, and so I'll allow the time. Yep.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. So the individual from the administration from Metro Legal just stated that we were in the very early stages of this litigation. My question is, have the motions to dismiss been briefed and litigated in this case? And or sort of where are we in the litigation process?
Okay, Ms. Roberge, it's back to you.
We have not filed a motion to dismiss. We do not think that a motion to dismiss would be successful. So we have not taken that step.
Does that answer your question, Mr. Prepty?
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor.
Okay. All right. Next for a question or discussion, rather, is Councilwoman Benedict. You're recognized.
Previous question.
Okay. Ms. Benedict has called the previous question. Is there a second? Okay. This is a non-debatable motion that requires 2/3 of those voting in the affirmative to end debate. If you are in favor of calling the question and moving to the vote on this matter, you will vote aye. Okay, if you want to continue discussion, you will vote no. We will try this first by voice. All in favor of the motion for the previous question, please say aye. Aye. All those against the previous question. Okay. Mr. Clerk, would you please put it on the board, sir? I can't distinguish between the two. Pretty close. Awful close, I can't tell. All votes are in. Mr. Clerk, please show the vote. Okay, the motion to call the question has failed, and so we then continue with discussion. Next in the queue for discussion is Councilwoman Toombs. You are recognized, ma'am.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. I am going to be abstaining on this. I can't support it because there's still some outlying concerns that I wish had been investigated earlier. I don't know if that was probably the role of Human Resources to investigate any alleged sexual advances. I know, as an attorney that oftentimes it's hard to corroborate those things, that it's a he say, she said type of thing. I also know that Metro Council is not a court of law. So even though we may think that a case is viable or that it should go forward, doesn't mean that a judge is going to think that a jury is going to think that, because in counsel, there are no rules of evidence, no rules of civil procedure. And so that's why it just gives me pause. I hear the concerns. I don't want to say no, because I understand our legal counsel is telling us they don't think this is a good case. And I've been in that situation where you, as an attorney, you don't think you have a good case, but the client wants to move forward. But I do still have some concerns about the complaint itself and about these previous allegations and what really led to Mr. Saad not getting the position. And so I'm just not a strong yes or a strong no, so I'm going to be abstaining.
Thank you, Ms. Toombs. Councilwoman Weiner, you're recognized, ma'am.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I appreciate it. I have a couple of questions for both Finance and Metro Legal, if I may. My first question is to Metro Finance. Where's the money coming from to pay this?
Okay. Ms. Deaton-Moyer, you're recognized for the Finance Department. Go ahead, ma'am.
Thank you. The money for this settlement is coming from the $3 million that was allocated in March, and it's part of the judgment and losses, and so that is not coming from the arts budget.
So none of the art groups that are going to be getting grant money, they're not going to lose out because of this?
They're not affected by this.
At all? Okay, great. So that was thing number one. Thing number two, was his contract a temporary service or was it a temporary contract? Can you differentiate?
So a temporary services contract would be where you hire someone specifically for a service, and they're paid by that temp service. You might see that as a Randstad or something, and and that's one of our contracts that we have here. This was a payroll service, and it was actually used out of scope, and so Jonathan Saab was paid for services through a payroll service, but there was not a contract for the work that he was doing.
So he was an employee of Metro government?
No, he was a person that was paid through our payroll services. So it's kind of a hybrid thing. And as I said, it was out of scope for this contract.
Okay. I guess my last question would.
Ms. Weiner, if you would move the mic a little closer to your mouth.
Sorry.
That's
I'm
okay.
sorry. I think my last question, because I'm a lot like Councilmember Toombs. I get that it's not a good case. I hate the message that it's sending, but I also know that we're not in the HR department. And so I'm going to be careful about this because I don't know that you can answer it. And this is for Metro Legal. Is there anything that would help us close the gaps on some of the concerns that we have about unspoken issues that might impact this decision?
Ms. Roberge, you're recognized.
So the allegations about inappropriate conduct, we did ask Metro HR if there was anything in his personnel file, and there were no complaints. There was nothing in that file, and the allegation about those complaints actually came up after the Arts Commission started being investigated by, I believe it's Attorney Knight. And so the timing of kind of the initial allegations, there may be some questions about that as well. So I think to the extent it helps kind of calm some fears, there were no contemporaneous reports of any sort of inappropriate behavior by Mr. Saad.
That helps. Thank you. I will be voting to support this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Weiner. Councilwoman Gadd, you're recognized, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Vice Mayor. Just a couple of things. I'm definitely not in a place where I feel like I can support this, but I'm also in a place where I'll likely be voting to abstain. And the reason has been shared by another colleague with Councilmember Toombs. I do still have some concerns, but I have a couple of questions, or at least one question, if you don't mind me seeking that, and for you to direct the question where you see fit. But specifically, since it was just lifted up about the Arts Commission matter, or the Arts Commission matter resolution fund, we did receive information yesterday that the current balance of the fund, or with the current balance, and that for us to recall that the fund started with $3 million and was created to both fully fund the artists that were awarded arts grants, as well as to pay for outside counsel as necessary. And the one thing I'm just trying to understand from that fund, is that not money that's taken away from the Arts Commission? I may just need one more chance at understanding that.
Okay, that sounds like a question for Ms. Deaton Moyer. Ms. Moyer, Deaton Moyer, you're recognized.
Hey there, the funds that, that $3 million, and I was actually going to go find the language specifically, but it was to resolve all of the issues that came up as a result of the arts granting process throughout that year. So many, if not most, there are still some out there, have been resolved through that. And you'll recall the many reports that we had on which artists have been paid through that process and not from this fund. There are, as a result of the conciliation agreement, so still artists being paid, but it's as a result of that 24 process, as is this settlement.
Do you have a follow-up question, Ms. Gadd?
I do.
Okay, go ahead.
So my follow-up question is, I just want to confirm, and I believe I just understood this from the response that was given, that using this fund does not remove funds from the artists and the grants.
Can you confirm that, Ms. Deaton Moyer?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank
Okay.
you. I know that's a redundant, repetitive question, but thank you. I just had some difficulty with that. The final thing with this, I highly concerned with a lot of the matters that have been lifted up. I would encourage, if there's any inaccuracies that's been lifted up with the assessment of this particular legal matter, for that to be shared. But at this point, I'll be abstaining. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gadd. Councilwoman Ellis, you're recognized, ma'am.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. So I assume I need to ask this question through you.
Yes, you always address the chair, and then I can recognize the administration. Yep.
Thank you. Can I get the opinion of the administration on this?
You may, Mr. Rosenberg, on behalf of the administration. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. I have no legal background whatsoever. I'll add. I would say, first of all, it is not accurate to say that this settlement is greater than the York settlement. Metro is only paying a portion of that other settlement happening tonight, and trying to equate the amounts as a matter of importance or something is inaccurate. We support the legal department's assessment that it is a financially responsible decision to settle this matter. And at a time when I think we all have things that we are demanding of the Metro Department of Law to do, using a lot of resources here to fight what sounds like a losing case just does not sound like a smart use of the resources at hand. Thank you.
Okay, no follow-up. Okay, Ms. Ellis. Councilwoman Hill, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. I'm going to try my best to skirt where I'm at and where I stand with this. As someone who's been in this situation, it amazes me how some of the folks in the room can attack someone as a victim that they don't know and how someone can suddenly be a really bad person and can take some of their personal traits. I'm going to vote in favor of yes to this, and that's all I would say.
Okay. Mr. Bradford, you are recognized, sir.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. So I am standing in opposition to this, and my biggest problem with this settlement is that we're taking $150,000 out of the $3 million allocated to rectify the issue with grants funding. This is a personnel issue. We have a complete fund for judgments and settlements for personnel issues and other cases. And so I disagree that to take this money out of the money allocated for artists. And so I will be voting no, and I ask my colleagues to do the same.
Okay, Mr. Bradford. Ms. Porterfield, it is back to you. You're recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I have 2 questions that I will direct to you if we can get them answered from legal. Do we know when the civil service tests were taken by the 2 applicants? That's my first question. And then my second question is with Mr. Saad's discrimination allegations. Is there any bearing that the person who got the job, I assume, is also a member of a protected class as a Black queer woman? My assumption would be that she's also a member of a protected class. So how does that work when we're looking at like discrimination cases?
Okay, the questions, as I understand them, Ms. Roberge from Metro Legal, is regarding the civil service examination first, when those tests were taken for all persons applying for this position. Okay, so if we could dispose of that first.
I don't have the exact date, but it would have been fall of 2023. That was the first step in the process.
Okay, and then the second question, as I understand it, would be to the question around discrimination, that the person who was eventually hired was also of a protected class. Can you respond to that question, please?
So that could have an impact. Mr. Saad also has an age discrimination complaint, and the person who got the position is significantly younger than Mr. Saad, I believe in her 20s. And so that wouldn't necessarily offset for that claim, but it could be a factor. But again, I still think the overall merits of the case are such that we would be asking a jury to make a decision.
Any follow-up, Ms. Porterfield? Okay. Ms. Johnston, you appear to be the last in the queue. You are recognized.
I just have a question of finance. If we were to proceed with litigation and were to lose the case to the point where we are having to pay out more than the $150,000, let's say it's $300,000 or whatever, $450,000, I think somebody said yesterday, right? $450,000. Would that $450,000 come out of the same $3 million tranche? So we're potentially putting, I'm seeing heads nodding is why I'm, do we need to put that on the record?
Do you want to complete the question, or you just want that acknowledgement for that first part? You want to just go ahead and complete?
Yes. So, okay. Well, I just want to ask them and get it on the record that if we were to lose the case and we have that higher amount that we have to pay out, anywhere between $300,000 and $450,000, that amount comes out of the $3 million fund that we have created for this purpose, correct?
Ms. Deaton-Moyer, can you speak that into the record, please?
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
Okay.
Okay, so we are listening to Metro Legal say, we think we could lose this case. It's a 50-50 shot at best. And we're worried about $150,000 being pulled out of this fund when we're really risking a lot more than that. I just want to make sure that everyone is aware of that. I understand that there are people that don't want to pay this person any money. I totally get that. And I get wanting to fight. I get that too. I'm kind of a fighter. But I also don't like to lose. And when I've got people smarter than me in a particular category, and they're telling me this is a bad bet, I'm probably not going to make that bet. As difficult as it is to write a check to someone that you don't want to write a check to, I 100% get that. I think we're in a really bad situation. But I did want to make sure that everyone understands that we are risking a heck of a lot more coming out of this fund than what we're proposing to settle with this man.
Thank you, Ms. Johnston. Councilwoman Suara, you're recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. My comment is not about the individual, and it has nothing to do with branding them as a bad person. I don't know them. But my thoughts and my comments relate to what's been going on with Metro Arts, the whole process. It also has to do with legal's decision not to litigate. When we're talking about 150, 300, we're talking about that individual person, but we should also think about the trust and what people in the community feels. I remember when legal decided not to litigate the COB issue, that issue is still in the community up till now. And there's still people that felt like even if there's a reason behind it, it's a good reason behind it, or whatever it is, there's still people that felt like we did not do enough. And I think that's what I want us to consider. There are people that felt like with the history and everything that's happened now with Metro Arts, that this shouldn't just be settled like that. It opens the door, coupled with the fact that the person is not a Metro employee, but a temp. The contract, I asked a lot of questions in budget yesterday. People can go back and look at it. Our obligation, the person's contract is with the agency, not with Metro. So those are some of the reasons that I'm looking at. And I think that us just saying, let's settle this so that we can go away. The people that felt like we need to do more and we need to ask more. So I think, in my opinion, I think we should push more. And lastly, I understand the 125 is not what this woman is getting, the only thing that she's getting. But when you're looking at it, we talk about trust in government, we talk about perception, we talk about how people feel. It's just what is out there. And I think it's very important for us to know that we're listening to the people that are out there and that we are taking all of that. I've not heard that we will lose it. It's a 50% chance. And when we asked yesterday, one of the reasons why we thought we would lose is because we may not get Daniel Singh to come and be a witness. Somebody asked, have we even tried to contact him and ask if we would? We said we haven't. And so I don't think we've done everything, and I think at this point, we should not settle yet. If we do settle, I agree that it should be for a lesser amount.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Suara. Seeing no one else seeking discussion on this matter, we will move to the vote, knowing that there are, based on the discussion, for, against, abstentions. We will do this by machine tablet vote. So, Mr. Clerk, if you would please ready the vote. Colleagues, this requires a simple majority to pass. Okay, with all votes in, Mr. Clerk, please show the vote. Okay, the motion to adopt this resolution has failed. So this resolution has not been adopted. Okay, colleagues, now we move on to agenda item 3, Resolution 2024-746, sponsors Johnston, Gamble, Sepulveda, Porterfield, Evans, Welsh, Ellis, Suarez, Gadd, Toombs, and Evans Siegel. This is a resolution amending resolutions RS 2021-1152 as amended, which appropriated $3,148,980 in American Rescue Plan Act funds, and Resolution 2023-1952, which appropriated an additional $326,800 of American Rescue Plan Act funds to the Office of Family Safety for the Metropolitan Government to reallocate the use of funds, and approving Amendment 2 to grant agreements between the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County, acting by and through the Office of Family Safety, to various nonprofit organizations. Sponsor Johnston, you are recognized.
Committee reports, please.
Okay. First, for the Committee Report of Budget and Finance, Chair Porterfield.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Budget and Finance considered this item and voted 10 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting for the amendment, and 10 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting for approval as amended.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Chair of Public Health and Safety, Ms. Evans, you're recognized.
Thank you. We considered this amended item and recommended approval, 9 in favor, 0 against on the amendment, and 9 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting on the resolution as amended.
Okay. All right, Ms. Johnston, it's back to you for a motion to get the bill in front of us, and then we can take up the amendment. Go ahead.
Move approval, please.
Okay, is there a second? Okay, it's back to you.
Move the amendment, please.
Is there a second for the motion to amend? Okay, properly moved. We're on the amendment.
I mean, I guess I'll explain it.
Yeah, if you could give a brief explanation.
There was an outdated version of this resolution that was erroneously filed. And so the corrected version, sorry about that. It extends the contract through February 28th of 2025, appropriates $22,500 in additional ARP funds to Agape, $105,000 in additional ARP funds to the Sexual Assault Center, and $104,000 in additional ARP funds to the Nashville Children's Alliance.
Yep, that's it. I appreciate the explanation. It's properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on the motion to amend? Okay, seeing none, all in favor of the amendment, please say aye. Any voting no or abstaining? Okay, we're back to you for a motion on your bill as amended.
Move the resolution as amended, please.
Okay, is there a second? Okay, any discussion on the resolution as amended? Okay, seeing none, all in favor of the resolution, please say aye. Any voting no or abstaining? Okay, you have adopted this resolution as amended. Thank you, Ms. Johnston. Okay, next is agenda item 4, RS 2024-774, sponsor Porterfield. This is a resolution authorizing the Metropolitan Department of Law to compromise and settle the claim of Beth York as next of kin of Jacqueline York, deceased, against the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County in the amount of $125,000, and that said amount be paid out of the self-insured liability fund. Chair Porterfield, you are recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Committee report, Budget and Finance approved this item, 7 in favor, 1 against, and 0 not voting. With committee reports being in, I move for approval with a brief explanation.
Okay, is there a second for the motion to approve? Okay, go ahead. Chair Porterfield.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. We had a very lengthy discussion about this on yesterday, and I was extremely torn on which way that I was going to vote on this. I believe that the amount should be higher, which is why I really struggled with how we should move forward. We did have a lot of questions for the Sheriff's Department with regards to the supervisor that is listed in the analysis of the legislation. Lots of concerns about the supervisor being, what's the word? Not punished, disciplined. The supervisor being disciplined, whereas there was more concern about what has happened to ensure that this doesn't happen again? So as opposed to just being disciplined, what have they done to like ensure that this does not happen again going forward? So I still have lots of concerns, but ultimately in the conversation yesterday, what we learned from legal was that if we voted this down, in essence, they would go to court, and my understanding is that they would go to court, and then it's not guaranteed that the individual would get anything from Metro. So my understanding is that if we voted down, the person may not get anything, but that does not give the ability to increase the amount. Like, we don't have the ability to increase the amount. So with that being said, I'm going to vote for it. Because I do want the deceased family member to be able to get the settlement, and I don't want to hold that up. But I did have one question, if I could pose it to legal, to Ms. Bustle, who I believe is the lead attorney on this case. Like, if she could just speak to how often legal, because I think we see the settlements, we don't always hear about like when legal is actually going to trial on these cases. So if we could hear how often legal is going to trial versus when they are settling the case. And also if she could just speak to, I know I gave an overview of what we discussed in committee yesterday, but if she could just speak to the body to let us know like what happens if we vote this down, and is there an opportunity to give Ms. York's family an increased amount?
Okay, Ms. Bustle, you are recognized for the legal department.
Good evening, council. Yes, so it is certainly true that we litigate more than we propose settlements for. By the way that the Metro Code is written, there are certain reports that come to the council. You see those reports for significant litigation as that's defined in the code, and you see judgments against Metro. You don't often see the good news. In fact, you rarely see the good news. And we win an overwhelming number of the lawsuits that are filed against the city. I'm happy to provide that information to the council in report form if that would be helpful to sort of quash this narrative that Metro Legal just wants to settle cases. I've tried a lot of cases in my career. I've won a lot of cases in my career. My colleagues have tried a lot of cases and won a lot of cases. We resolve most cases before they ever get to trial in motion practice. We also try a lot of cases. So if we're here talking about a settlement, it's because we feel pretty strongly that there is significant risk to Metro in proceeding with the case. That's the only reason we come before you to ask for you to approve a settlement. If we believe that we've got a good shot at winning a case, we're gonna litigate it. We love working here because we get to litigate cases here. In private practice, that doesn't happen as often. And so I can assure you on behalf of the legal department that we are coming to you when and only when we have concerns about risk to the city, financial risk to the city, and proceeding with the lawsuit. So again, if it would be helpful for any of you to see reporting on how often we win, I think just off the top of my head, there are anywhere between 105 and 130 lawsuits pending right now against Metro. So that perhaps will give you a little bit of perspective on kind of the difference between what you're seeing in terms of proposed settlements and what we're actually defending. Was there another question, or?
There another piece in there, if you could just re-clarify that.
Yes, the other
I kind of lost
piece,
what was.
I forgot my question. The other piece, how often are we going to trial? You expressed that. Oh, just clarifying for individuals like myself who felt that we should give Miss York's family more money. Like, if we vote this down, is there opportunity to give more money? And I know yesterday we were told no, to Councilor Soros shaking her head. I know we were told that, but just to get it on the record for the rest of the body that did not hear that.
I appreciate that. Ms. Bustle, go ahead.
Yes, and so under the Metro Code, the director of law can propose or basically recommend settlements above $5,000 for personal injury damages to the council for a thumbs up or thumbs down vote. So when you vote to approve or vote against approval of that settlement, then we proceed accordingly. If you vote this settlement down, then I will defend the lawsuit. Me and my colleague Andrew McClanahan, who is also working this case with me, will defend the lawsuit, do the best we can. If I thought I had a really good shot of winning this case, I wouldn't be here tonight, standing in front of you asking for approval of the settlement. I also think it's important to note that this settlement was the product of a mediation, not just a negotiation, but a mediation. We sought out that process in hopes of resolving this without unnecessary protracted litigation. We also got WellPath and their counsel to come to the table through a lot of efforts between me and the Sheriff's Office representative to get them to come to the table to be part of that discussion. I can't get into the details of their portion of the settlement. But Miss York, the mother of the lady who died by suicide, is getting more than $125,000. And to be clear, she would not have agreed to that settlement if she wanted to go to trial. So this was the product of a day-long negotiation at a mediation. And if you vote this down, then we will essentially have no choice but to defend the lawsuit at that point. And WellPath is not part of the case anymore because they have essentially settled out. So it would then just be Metro left to litigate the case.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bussell.
One more, just really brief clarifying,
Very
if I may.
quickly.
So to clarify, if we vote this down, then the case goes to trial. You are defending the case, which means that you would be defending Metro. So there's a possibility that Ms. York's mother does not get any of the 125 at that point.
Ms. Bussell?
Yes, I wouldn't be here if I thought I had a substantial chance of winning. I wouldn't be proposing this to you, but that is certainly possible. Again, WellPath was part of this. We can still certainly talk about WellPath's role if we were to take this case to trial, and we certainly would be talking about WellPath's role. And so, yeah, it is certainly not a guarantee that Ms. York would get anything from Metro if we proceeded with the case.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you both. Ms. Stiles, you're recognized.
Thank you very much, Vice Mayor. I'd like to move for one meeting deferral on this. I have some questions that I would like to ask. I'm trying to vote it down, but I don't feel good about voting on this evening. And I think a one meeting deferral will give some time. I'm sure I'm not the only person that has concerns about this, to ask some more questions.
Okay, are you making that motion?
Yes.
Is there a second? I heard a second. Who offered the second? Okay, so there is a motion for a one meeting deferral. It is properly seconded, and so now we are on discussion of a one meeting deferral. Are the folks that are in the queue wanting to speak regarding the deferral? Okay. All right, so I'll just proceed in the usual order. Ms. Suara, on the one meeting deferral, please, ma'am.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'm going to speak against the one meeting deferral. We had a lot of conversation yesterday, and this is a different case. I think that, one, we, as custodian of taxpayer money, we cannot arbitrarily ask for more money. Number two, the people came to sit down and agree to this amount. Number three, there's another part of the settlement that is in addition to this. So with all of that, I think all the conditions to be able to, everybody's agreed to it, and there's more. I'm sorry for the daughter that died. I wanted more too initially, but after all the conversation, knowing that it was done with the attorneys and everybody came to, I don't think there's any point in delaying it for the family. And so I don't think a 1 meeting deferral is necessary. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Suara. Mr. Prep-T on the one meeting deferral. Okay, go ahead, sir.
Yes, thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. I just have a bit of a parliamentary inquiry with regard to the one meeting deferral as to whether or not within the period of the one meeting deferral, it is within the parameters of our rules and procedures for council members to then potentially file amendments to amend the amount of the settlement within this resolution.
Okay, Special Counsel Darby, do we need to restate Mr. Prep-T's question, or you've got it? Okay, go ahead, ma'am.
When there is a deferral, there is essentially a new amendments deadline. However, I think it was just explained to you by counsel for Metro Legal that the vote here is an up or down vote. There is no amendment of the amount. The director of law has the ability to direct all litigation, and they are proposing this particular settlement number.
Following up on that answer with a secondary parliamentary inquiry is, would an amendment of the settlement amount would be able to be done through a non-binding by amending this resolution to then be a non-binding resolution?
Special Counsel Darby?
No, it wouldn't be. If you made it, and if you turned it into a non-binding resolution, then it would not give the legal department the authority to actually settle. If you wanted to do a separate non-binding resolution, then there is time to file a separate resolution for the next meeting.
Okay, and then, Madam Vice Mayor, I also have a two-part point of information or inquiry as to if it's even able to be disclosed how the specific valuation of this settlement was brought about, and whether or not there are other non-monetary parts of this settlement. Specifically, are there any policy changes associated with the sheriff's department or anything like that that is able to be disclosed to the body?
Okay, I'm thinking maybe we've moved outside of the realm of a parliamentary inquiry, and that is perhaps a question to be directed to the legal department? Or did you want it to be directed to Ms. Darby?
We can direct that to the legal department. Whichever entity the chair decides is the most appropriate to answer that.
Okay, I'm going to go to Ms. Bussell. You're recognized.
I really can't speak to how the particular negotiations played out. I mean, that I know you're an attorney and you certainly understand that a lot of what we do really should kind of, out of respect for the process, be maintained confidential. So because there were multiple parties at the table, there was a lot of numbers that got floated around. This is not a typical settlement. Say, for example, Ms. Roberge's, I think, is a great example of how in an employment situation that might look different, because you have things like wages, you have, attorney's fees at issue. This York lawsuit is just a pure negligence lawsuit. It's a Governmental Tort Liability Act case that was filed in state court. So there are no attorney's fees. There's not an attorney's fees provision, but the practical reality is that a woman lost her life. So if Metro were to be found liable, I think it is quite likely that in the event of liability, the cap would be hit. Now, the cap is $300,000. So in the grand scheme, I do think that also provides a little bit of context for the number that we ended up settling on for the Metro portion. Metro could never be on the hook for $1 million in this case. They couldn't be on the hook for $500,000. $300,000 was always going to be the cap. So I can't really break down the 125. I mean, the simple answer to your question is that's what we agreed to. And that's what Ms. York was willing to accept from Metro. Again, all with the caveat that this was a much more global resolution that involved amounts above that.
Okay, Mr. Prepty, so we're on the one meeting deferral. I know you're seeking clarification as to what could happen within that time frame. So final.
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up on the second part that I posed, whether or not there were any
Go ahead, sir.
any
Yep.
non-monetary portions of this settlement. For example, policy change within DCSO or anything of that nature.
Ms. Bussell, were there any related policy commitments related to the settlement?
No, the settlement was a pure monetary settlement.
Is that everything, Mr. Prepty?
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor.
No worries. Okay. Mr. Parker, you are recognized, sir, on the motion to defer one meeting.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. So I'm rising in opposition to the one meeting deferral. I don't think there's an ability of this body to modify this. We've had some extensive discussion about how we can't do it by amendment because we're not in the negotiating room with the parties involved and other things. And so, I would encourage colleagues, I understand the concerns and I hear them, but I would encourage colleagues to reject the deferral motion, and let's vote this up or down this evening.
Okay. All right. Seeing no one else seeking discussion on the motion for a one-meeting deferral, it having been properly seconded, we will try this by voice. All in favor of a one-meeting deferral, please say aye. All against a one-meeting deferral, please say no. Okay. The deferral motion fails, and we are back on the motion to approve. Is there any further discussion on the motion to approve that is before us? Seeing Ms. Suara, you're recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I just wanted to, if it's not clear enough, to just tell our colleagues not to vote this down, to respect the wish of the family in accepting this amount and knowing that there's a whole lot more that went into this. This case is different from the last one that we did. So please do not vote this down and let them have some closure. Thank you.
Okay, seeing no further discussion, we'll move to the vote, and we will try this first by voice. All in favor of the motion to approve this resolution, please say aye. Aye. Any voting no? Any abstaining? Okay, this resolution has been adopted. Next is agenda item 6, resolution 2024-776, sponsors Porterfield, Evans, Allen, and Vo. This is a resolution accepting, a grant from the Tennessee Opioid Abatement Council of the Metropolitan to the Metropolitan government, acting by and through the Metropolitan Board of Health, to use a multi-component approach to remediate the effects of opioid use in Nashville, Davidson County by implementing a sustainable strategic plan to decrease overdose incidents among the population. Ms. Porterfield, sponsor, you are recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Committee reports. Budget and Finance voted for a one-meeting deferral, 7 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting.
Okay. Chair Evans, go ahead. You're recognized for your committee report, please.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. We also recommended a one-meeting deferral, 9 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting.
Okay. Per Rule 8.1, that is a mandatory deferral by rule for one meeting. Okay. Okay, next is agenda item 9, resolution 2024-779, sponsors Porterfield, Evans, Hancock, Welsh, and Vo. And this is a resolution approving Amendment A to a grant from the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency to the Metropolitan Government, acting by and through the Metropolitan Board of Health for the ongoing collection of data on ambient air concentrations for fine particulate matter in Nashville, Tennessee. Sponsor Porterfield, you are recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Committee reports. Budget and Finance approved this, 7 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting.
Were you able to take up in committee the late filed housekeeping substitute of Councilmember Allen?
We were not.
You were not, because that was yesterday.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No worries.
Okay. That is a question perhaps better addressed to Chair Evans, who had a committee meeting this evening. Go ahead, Ms. Evans.
We did it. We took up the late filed substitute, and we recommended approval of the substitute, 9 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. And then we recommended approval of the whole shebang, 9 in favor, 0 against.
As substituted.
Yes, thank you.
All right. Okay. All right. So it is then back to you, Ms. Porterfield, to get the bill in front of us, please.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Move for approval.
Okay. Is there a second? Okay. So the bill is before us at this time. Ms. Porterfield, do you seek to be further recognized, or we just want to go through discussion and go to Ms. Allen? Okay.
I would like to defer to
Okay,
Councilmember Allen.
that is totally fine. So we are on a motion to approve, and you are recognized, Ms. Allen.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. I'd like to ask for a suspension of the rules.
Okay, is there any objection? Oh, I need a report first. A committee report first. Chair Prep T, go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. The Rules Confirmation Public Elections considered the late filed nature of the substitute and voted in favor of suspending the rules. 6 in favor, 1 against, 0 not voting.
Okay, is there any objection to the suspension of the rules to take up this late filed housekeeping substitute? Okay, seeing none, the rules are suspended. So it's back to you, Ms. Allen.
Thank you. This is simply a housekeeping substitute because the caption of the bill is actually copied from the next resolution that does deal with particulate matter. This one doesn't. So we've simply copied what the grant actually deals with, which is supporting activities to protect air quality so that it achieves established ambient air standards. So it's a more broad description, and it's great that we're providing money so that we can have clean air. So that's the nature of the substitute, and I would ask for approval.
Okay, so Ms. Allen has moved the substitute, a motion to substitute. Is there a second? Okay, properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? You've heard the description of Ms. Allen. Is there any discussion on the motion to substitute? Seeing none, all in favor of the substitute, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, any voting no or abstaining? Okay, so the substitute is on the bill, and Ms. Allen, are you signed on as a sponsor?
I think this makes me the sponsor.
Indeed it does. Well said, ma'am. Thank you. Okay, and so it's back to you for a motion on your bill as
I
substituted.
invite my colleague to sign on if she feels deeply about that. But I move the bill as substituted.
Okay, is there a second? Okay, any discussion on the bill as substituted? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any voting no or abstaining? Okay, you have adopted this resolution as substituted. Okay, next is agenda item 21, resolution 2024-791. Sponsors Porterfield, Evans, and Welsh, a resolution accepting a grant from the Nashville Police plus Public Safety Alliance to the Metropolitan government, acting by and through the Metropolitan Nashville Police Department to purchase the Zen City Blockwise platform to measure resident safety perceptions and trust in law enforcement through ongoing surveys to guide public safety strategies. Ms. Porterfield, you are recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Committee reports, Budget and Finance approved this, 6 in favor, 1 against, 0 not voting.
Okay, Chair Evans for Public Health and Safety, please.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. We recommended a 1-meeting deferral. I believe, hang on one second, I'm sorry. Yeah, 1-meeting deferral, 11 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting.
Okay. Yeah, it's late. I was going to ask, have it be both committees, but it does not. Per Rule 8.1, having recommended a mandatory, or rather a 1-meeting deferral, it is a mandatory deferral by rule, Ms. Porterfield.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. May I make a brief comment about why we deferred it?
Why
we deferred it? I wanted colleagues to understand why we deferred it. No, we can't?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Alrighty. So it is deferred by rule to the meeting of November 7th. Okay, 1 meeting. Okay, next is agenda item 30. This is resolution 2024-801. Sponsors Coop and Hill, Swara, Gamble, Huffman, Stiles, Nash, Gregg, Vo, Benedict, Benton, Welsh, Gadd, Evans, Siegel, Webb, Toombs, Spain, Allen, and Rutherford. This is a resolution honoring the life and accomplishments of Chris Christopherson. Mr. Coopin, you are recognized, sir.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to move approval with a brief comment.
Okay.
Oh, I'd like my committee reports. Thank you, Chair Prep-T. Just making sure we're all awake still.
Chair Prep-T, you're recognized, sir.
Committee considered RS 2024-801 and voted 5 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting.
Okay, back to you, Mr. Coopin.
Now I'd like to move with a brief comment.
Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. So a few months ago, Nashville lost a special resident, one who made a profound impact on this community. Chris Christopherson passed away on September 28th, 2024, at the age of 88. Before us today is a resolution to honor his life and his many great achievements. While Chris was not a Nashville native, having been born in Brownsville, Texas, he moved to Nashville in 1965 after his time as a Rhodes Scholar and service in the U.S. Army, and played an active role in our community ever since. His story embodies everything that makes Nashville so great. Like so many who've moved to Music City, he worked part-time jobs while honing his songwriting craft, including as a janitor and a helicopter pilot. After years of developing his talent, Christopherson wrote several timeless classics such as Me and Bobby McGee, Help Me Make It Through the Night, and Sunday Morning Coming Down. He became a successful artist, producing his own hit songs, and was part of the supergroup The Highwaymen and starred in films like 1976 remake of A Star Is Born. He was inducted into both the Songwriters Hall of Fame and the Country Music Hall of Fame. And he wasn't only a talented artist, he also displayed a passion for advocacy on behalf of songwriters, including his efforts to co-found the Nashville Songwriters Association. For his lasting impact both within our community and on the broader music industry as a whole, I feel that it is important that we recognize him and his accomplishments with this resolution, and I would like to amend my motion to invoke Rule 12.3 to have everyone voting in the affirmative added to the resolution.
Okay, there is a motion to approve with Rule 12.3 applied such that everybody voting in the affirmative will be added as a sponsor. Is there a second for that amended motion? Okay.
I didn't hear you.
All right. Is there any discussion on this resolution? Ms. Suara, you're recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I rise in support and I applaud my colleague for bringing it and Mr. Christopherson for all that he did. But I wanted to rise to lift up what he did in terms of his support of Palestinian children. And there's documented stories about him losing some work because he was a big advocate for Palestinian children and some of the things that he did in that area. And so I just wanted to, not many people know about that story and what he did. He was an advocate for so many causes, but that was one that I wanted to lift up. And with that, I support the resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Suara. Is there any further discussion on this resolution? Okay, seeing none, no discussion. All in favor, please say aye. Any voting no or abstaining? Okay, you have adopted this resolution. Next is agenda item 32, resolution 2024-803, sponsors Stiles, Welsh, Wiener, Coopin, Allen, Gadd, Gregg, Gamble, Suara, Nash, Ewing, Vo, Evans, Siegel, and Toombs. This is a resolution recognizing the 20th anniversary of the Nashville Public Library Foundation Literary Award Gala. Ms. Stiles, you are recognized.
Thank you very much, Vice Mayor. I would like to move for approval implementing
Rule 12.3.
Yeah, Murphy rule, yeah, all that good stuff.
Is there a second? Okay. All right. Is there anything you want to say?
Report?
Anything you want to say about this?
No, I just wanted to thank them for the work that they've done for the last 20 years, and I wanted to make sure that we were all on this so it could be given to them at their event.
Understood. Okay. Is there, pardon? Yes, we do need a committee report. Thank you as well. Chair Prep T. And I gotta click your button. There you go, sir.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. We considered RS 2024-803 and voted 5 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting.
5 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. Okay, with that committee report in and seeing no one else seeking discussion, we'll move to the vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any voting no or abstaining? Okay. You have adopted that resolution as well. Next is agenda item 33, resolution 2024-804, sponsors Toombs, Vo, and Allen. This is a resolution celebrating the 100th anniversary of American Baptist College. Go ahead, Ms. Toombs, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. I'd like to move for approval.
Let's first get your
committee report.
Committee report. Chair Prep T, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. The committee considered RS 2024-804 and as well as the late filed substitute. We voted 8 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting to approve the substitute, and 7 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting on the bill as substituted.
Okay,
or resolution as substituted.
okay. And do we need to suspend the rules here? Okay, did you take up the rules suspension?
Yes, voted 8 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. to
Thank you,
suspend
sir.
the rules.
I'm sorry. Okay. All right, that committee report in. It's back to you, Ms. Toombs.
Okay, do I need to ask to suspend the rules at this point?
Let's get the resolution before us first. So you,
Move for approval.
is there a second? Okay, it's properly before us now. If you would move to suspend the
I'd
rules.
like to move to suspend the rules.
Okay, having heard the report of Chair Prep T and the request of Council Member Toombs for a substitute here, is there any objection to the suspension of the rules? Seeing none, the rules are suspended. Ms. Toombs, it's back to you.
Thank you. I'd like to move the substitute.
Is there a second? Okay, we are on the substitute.
So the substitute adds some language to the resolution as requested by American Baptist College. So with that, I ask for approval. Move for approval.
Okay, there's a motion to substitute. It's properly seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the substitute, please say aye. Any voting no or abstaining? Okay, so last back to you. You know what it is.
Move for approval is substituted.
Okay, is there a second? Okay, so we're on discussion of the resolution as substituted. Did you want to say something else before Ms., okay, back to you, Ms. Toombs.
My apologies, Madam Vice Mayor. I wanted to invoke Rule 12.3 so that everyone in the affirmative will be added to the
Okay, so there's a motion to approve as substituted with Rule 12.3 applied. Is that seconded? Okay, all righty. Seeing no one else seeking discussion on this matter, all in favor, please say aye. Any voting no or abstaining? Okay, you have adopted this resolution, and happy 100th anniversary to American Baptist College. Okay. Next is agenda item 34, Resolution 2024-805, sponsors Swara, Hill, Vo, Evans, Nash, Gregg, Johnston, Hancock, Wiener, Benton, Stiles, Gadd, Allen, Druffel, Coopin, Evans, Siegel, Welsh, Webb, Toombs, Benedict, Spain, and Rutherford. This is a resolution celebrating 50 years of the Nashville Fire Department's EMS. Okay, Ms. Swara, you are recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Committee reports, please.
Chair Prep T, you're recognized. Whoops, hang on. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. The committee considered RS 2024-805 and voted 5 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting.
Okay, thank you. Back to you, Ms. Swara, for a motion.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'd like to move approval and invoke Rule 12.3.
Okay.
And any comment?
Is there a second for that motion? Okay, back to you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I rise and I'm so grateful that we're able to recognize the Nashville Firefighter Department and the EMS. On July 21st of this year, I was out of town and I got a call that my house was on fire. I had to call Dave Roosevelt because he was my neighbor. And the scary part was that my son was actually in the house. He ended up suffering a few minor burns. My story is not unique. And I know that our fire department has helped save a lot of homes, save a lot of lives, not just for fire, but for emergency services. And they've been doing this since for 50 years. And so this is a way for us to thank them for all the services, the men and women that work for EMS and fire department, for their hard work, for everything they've done for all of us. A special thank you to the Bellevue Fire Department from myself and my family, and to Dave Rosenberg. For being there very fast and saving my home and saving my child. So with that, I move for approval.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Swara, for sharing that. Let's see, is there any further discussion on this motion to approve? Okay, seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Any voting no or abstaining? Okay, you have adopted this resolution. Okay, the last item among our resolutions is Agenda Item 35, Resolution 2024-806, sponsors Benedict Hill, Gad, Bradford, Vo, and Allen. This is a resolution recognizing October the 11th, 2024 as National Coming Out Day in Nashville and Davidson County. I see that Ms. Benedict is, I think, designating you, Mr. Bradford, as a fellow sponsor. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. Committee reports.
Chair Prep T, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. The committee considered RS 2024-806 and voted 5 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting.
Okay, back to you for a motion, Mr. Bradford.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. I would like to go ahead and invoke Rule 12.3 so that all those voting in affirmative will be listed as added as sponsors. I think it's important that the community sees that we stand in support of our LGBTQ community, whether they're in the closet or out, and let them know that we are a safe space. Thank you.
Okay, I appreciate that. So there is a motion to approve with Rule 12.3 applied. Is there a second? Okay, properly moved and properly seconded. Is there any discussion on this resolution? Okay, seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Any voting no or abstaining? Okay, you have adopted this resolution. Okay, that concludes our resolution. So now we are in Section L of our agenda, bills on introduction and first reading. Without objection, all items on first reading may be voted on at the same time. Do any items need to be pulled from first reading consideration? Okay, seeing none, is there a motion for approval of all items remaining, or all items on first consideration? Okay, and properly seconded. Okay, so without objection, okay, you have approved all items on first reading. Okay. So now we move into bills on second reading that were not on our consent agenda. Okay, first among those is Agenda Item 48. This is Ordinance BL 2024-469. Sponsors Prep T, Porterfield, Toombs, Swar, Benedict, Vo, Gad, Welsh, Lee, Bradford, Kimbrough, Sepulveda, and Ellis. This is an ordinance amending Chapters 2.44, 2.28, and 2.222 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws pertaining to criminal participation and related actions of employees of the Metro government. Mr. Prep T, you are recognized, sir.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. Committee reports.
Okay. Public Health and Safety Chair Evans. Is Ms. Evans here? Mr. Huffman, Vice Chair, might you have the report of the committee? Okay. All right, you are recognized, Vice Chair Huffman, for Public Health and Safety Committee's report. This is 469, Mr. Prep T's bill. And here comes Chair Evans.
Thank you, Madam. We voted 11 in favor for a one meeting deferral. Thank you.
Okay, 11 in favor, no abstentions, no objections there, Chair, just all in favor? All, okay, thank you. Of a one meeting deferral, and as such, Mr. Prep T, that is a mandatory deferral by rule, I believe, Rule 12.8.1.
I see Director Darby shaking her head.
Yes, okay. All right. So that is deferred one meeting to the meeting of November 7th. Okay. All right. Next is Agenda Item 49. This is Ordinance BL 2024-478. Sponsor Allen. This is an ordinance to amend Chapter 6.28 of the Metropolitan Code pertaining to short-term rental properties. Councilwoman Allen, you are recognized on your bill.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. I think all committee reports are in, so I will move for approval and then move on to amendments.
Okay. There is a motion. All committee reports are indeed in, and so there is a motion to approve. Is there a second? Okay, the bill is before us. Go ahead, Ms. Allen.
Thank you. I can't remember the order of the amendments, but I have one and Councilmember Horton has one, and
okay,
we'd like to move them both.
Okay.
We'll start with number one, whichever one that is.
Yeah, I think we have to move them separately. Okay. All righty. Dare to Dream. Okay. So, Ms. Allen, have you then moved amendment number 1?
Yes.
Okay. Is there a second? Okay. Would you like to provide a brief explanation?
Yes.
Or, okay.
I have a 50-50 chance of getting this right. So if this is my amendment, which let's.
It is.
Then
Yeah.
I'm good. Okay.
Yes.
Then
The
this
amendment 1 is
this
your
amendment-
amendment.
Thank you, I appreciate that. This amendment takes a reference to state law out of the provision that deals with change of ownership. There was just concern that there were some interesting intricacies dealing with residency that might complicate that, and it is better to pull that piece out. So that's all this does. And so with that, I would move for approval of that amendment.
Okay. There's a motion to amend with Amendment 1 by Ms. Allen, the lead sponsor. It is properly seconded. Is there any discussion on proposed Amendment 1? Seeing none, all in favor of Amendment 1, please say aye. Okay, any voting no? Any abstaining? Okay, that amendment is on the bill, and we, at that point, we could go to Mr. Horton. Is that your wish, Ms. Allen, there? Okay. Mr. Horton, you're recognized on Amendment 2, sir. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'd like to move for approval of Amendment 2 with a brief comment.
Okay, is there a second? Okay, it's back to you for an explanation.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. This makes some small tweaks to the different categories of documentation that can be provided in support of a short-term rental permit, specifically, most notably by separating the different types of insurance in different categories. So you could provide, for example, automobile insurance and life insurance as different categories of proof. I understand it's a friendly amendment by the sponsor, so as long as she's not against it and it's not destructive of the policy, I'd like to move for approval.
Okay, I see a thumbs up from Ms. Allen. Is there a second on the motion to amend with Amendment 2?
Second.
Okay, properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on Amendment 2? Okay, seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Any voting no or abstaining? Okay, that amendment has also been adopted. So now it's back to you, Ms. Allen, for a combined motion of approval with your amendments.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to move for approval as amended and amended with a brief explanation.
Okay, is there a second for the motion to approve as amended?
Right.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. Just wanted to say, again, all this bill does is tighten up the requirements for proving ownership, because that's been an issue that the STRP Appeal Board has dealt with, is fraudulently attained owner-occupied permits. So we are hopeful this will just make it harder to do anything dishonest in terms of getting those types of permits. I do appreciate the comments that were made by Ms. Williams. I did discuss those with legal team as well as other members of the short-term appeal board, and it was determined that these amendments are appropriate for the discussions that we've had right now, and maybe in another year or two we can take those up. So input is always good. So with that, I renew my motion for approval.
Okay, is there any further discussion on the motion to approve the bill as amended with both Amendment 1 and Amendment 2? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any voting no or abstaining? Okay, you have adopted, or rather you have passed this bill on second reading as amended. Okay, next is agenda item 51, ordinance BL 2024-553, sponsors Porterfield and Evans. This is an ordinance to amend chapter 10.64 of the Metropolitan Code pertaining to the Fire Prevention Code, section 13.3.5.1 of the NFPA 101 Life Safety Code, and section 18.5.5.1 of the NFPA 1 Fire Code. Okay. Ms. Porterfield, you are recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Committee reports, Budget and Finance voted 7 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting for an indefinite deferral.
Okay. Chair Evans for Public Health and Safety. Your report, please.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. We recommended an indefinite deferral as well, and we voted 11 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting.
Okay. With those committee reports in, it's back to you, Ms. Porterfield, for a motion on this bill.
Move for an indefinite deferral.
Okay. Is there a second? Okay. Properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor of an indefinite deferral, please say aye. Any voting no or abstaining? Okay, this bill has been indefinitely deferred. Okay, agenda item 52, ordinance BL 2024-554, sponsor Coupon. This is an ordinance to provide for the designation of public property within specified areas of downtown Nashville as a temporary special event zone during the time period beginning at 9:00 p.m. on December 30th, 2024, and ending at 6:00 a.m. on January 1st, 2025, relative to the use of these areas in conjunction with the 2024 New Year's Eve celebration and related activities and events. Mr. Coupon, you are recognized, sir.
Thank you, Madam President. Committee reports, please.
Okay, for the report of Arts, Parks, Libraries, and Entertainment, Chair Gadd.
Thank you so much. After much discussion, we approved the bill as amended, 7 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting.
Okay, thank you. And for Public Health and Safety, Chair Evans.
Thank you. We also recommended approval as amended, 11 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting.
Okay, with those committee reports in, it's back to you, Mr. Coupon, for a motion on your bill to get it before us.
I'd like to move approval, please.
Okay, is there a second? Okay, it's back to you.
I'd like to move the amendment.
Is there a second on the amendment? Okay, all right. Go ahead, sir.
And a brief comment on that. It's just a housekeeping matter to clean that up. We did learn in the Apple Committee we cannot change the day of New Year's, apparently. But this is just a housekeeping amendment and urge my colleagues to support it.
Understood. Is there any discussion on the motion to amend? Seeing none, all in favor of the amendment, please say aye. Any voting no or abstaining? Okay, so the amendment's on the bill, and back to you for a final motion.
Would like to move for approval as amended.
All right, is there a second? Okay, all in favor, please say aye. Any voting no or abstaining? Okay, you have passed that ordinance on second of 3 readings as amended. Okay, next is agenda item 53, ordinance BL 2024-555, sponsors Webb, Gamble, and Parker. This is an ordinance authorizing the abandonment of Edenwall Road connector and other remnant rights of way. Ms. Webb, you are recognized.
I think it's a housekeeping issue, Brett. I can't remember.
Yep, first and
Right,
foremost,
yeah.
we need to get the bill before us.
Okay. I'd like to move the bill.
Okay, Ms. Webb has moved approval. Is there a second? Okay. And so now it's to you on the motion to substitute.
Okay, the motion to substitute, please.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Special counsel reminded me, we need to get your committee reports, okay?
Okay.
So Ms. Gamble, go ahead. You're recognized for planning and zoning. Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Gamble, go ahead.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Planning and Zoning recommended approval as substituted, 9 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting.
Okay. Chair Parker for Transportation and Infrastructure, go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. We consider the substitute. Recommended approval, 8 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. Recommended approval as substituted, 8 in favor, 0 against, and 0 not voting.
Okay, Ms. Webb, I'm going to back up one step. So with the committee reports in, now you can move approval to get the bill before us.
Okay.
Yep, move approval.
Okay, move for approval.
Seconded. Okay. And now you can move your substitute.
I move for substitute approval.
Okay. There's a motion to substitute by Ms. Webb. This is a housekeeping substitute. It's properly seconded. Is there any discussion on the substitute? Okay, seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Any voting no or abstaining? Okay, Ms. Webb, it's back to you for a motion on your bill as substituted, please.
Okay, I'd like to move for a motion as substituted.
Okay, is there a second? Okay, Ms. Webb has moved approval as substituted. All in favor, please say aye. Okay, any voting no or abstaining? Okay, this is past second reading as substituted. Okay, now we're on to bills on third reading. I believe only one of which was not on consent. Whoop, nope, I was wrong about that. Sorry to get your hopes up. Okay. First among those on third reading is Agenda Item 68, Ordinance BL 2024-535, sponsors Bradford and Gamble. This is an ordinance to amend Title 17 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws, the zoning ordinance of the Metropolitan Code of the Metropolitan Government in Nashville and Davidson County by changing from R20 to SP zoning for property located at 2377 Couchville Pike, approximately 1,471 feet west of Reynolds Road. This is 34.77 acres to permit industrial uses. Mr. Bradford, you are recognized, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Committee reports, please.
Okay, for the report of the Planning and Zoning Committee, Chair Gamble, this is Bill 535. Sponsor Bradford.
535.
Yes, ma'am.
Planning and zoning recommended approval, 8 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting.
Okay, it's back to you, Mr. Bradford, for a motion on your bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll move for approval with a brief comment.
Is there a second? Okay, go ahead, sir.
I just want to briefly show my appreciation to Councilmember Gamble, who signed on to this to allow it to move through public hearing while I was out of the country for Sister City. So thank you so much, Councilmember, and renew my motion.
Okay, is there any discussion on the motion to approve? Okay, Ms. Porterfield, you're recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I just need to be marked as a no vote.
Okay, it's third and final reading. Can we just mark a singular no? Okay, Mr. Clerk, if you would please do so accordingly once we move through the vote. Oh, we have to do a roll call? Okay, sorry. By rule, because it's third reading on this ordinance and we have a no vote, Mr. Clerk, if you could please ready the vote. Gentlemen, we have a no vote on this third reading ordinance, so you're going to need to vote at your desks, please, Mr. Huffman and Mr. Cortez. That's okay. Hey, I'm not scolding anybody. We just want to keep it moving. Keep it moving. Ooh. Which item was it? Okay. Mr. Clerk, did you say all votes are in? Okay. Show the vote, please, Mr. Clerk. This motion passes with one no vote on third and final reading. Okay, before we, okay, we'll keep moving. Okay, all righty. So next, although that's, yeah, okay. Ms. Gadd, if it's okay with you, we will be on kind of 80, 81, 82, those first. Is that okay? Okay. And then we'll deal with that other issue as I understand it after that. Okay? All righty. So now we are on agenda item 80. This is ordinance BL 2024-548, sponsor Gadd. This is an ordinance to amend Title 17 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws, the zoning ordinance of the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County by changing from SCC to SP zoning for a portion of property located at 40 White Bridge Pike, approximately 375 feet west of Post Place, and located within a commercial planned unit development overlay district. This is 3.67 acres to permit a mixed-use development. Ms. Gadd, you are recognized.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. I would like to move for or request committee reports.
Committee report, yep. Chair Gamble, a committee report, please, on 548.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Planning and zoning considered 548. Are we taking 549?
Well, and if you want to go ahead and give the report on its companion 549, I'll take that. We have to maybe bifurcate that because of the potential amendment remains to be seen. So if you would just report on both since they are companion bills.
Thank you. Companion bills 548 and 549 took up Amendment 1 by Councilmember Gadd, 10 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. Took up Amendment 2 by Councilmember Gadd, 10 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. And then took up the bill as amended with both amendments 1 and 2, 10 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting, as well as the companion bill 549, 10 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting.
Okay. All right. So with that committee report in, it is back to you, Ms. Gadd, for a motion to get 548 before us, please, ma'am.
Thank you so much. I would like to move BL 2024-548 with the purpose of bringing up an amendment.
That's fine. So you're moving approval. Is there a second? Okay, so it's back to you, and a motion to amend is a proper motion at this time.
I would like to make a motion to amend using amendment number 1 only.
Okay, is there a second? Okay, so there's a motion to amend with Amendment 1. Would you like to provide a brief explanation, Ms. Gadd, of what Amendment 1 does?
Yes, this amendment provides a few updates or conditions and improvements, and I will go through a couple of those here, but then in broader discuss the bill. This will provide some additional screening on the parking garage, so addressing the eastern facade elevations that have been discussed by neighbors in order to lower those. Will also it provides additional design standards that were agreed upon. This will also relocate the dog run from being next to the greenway, adds additional markings for the Music City Bikeway, and also provides an additional traffic light beyond Post Road, and as well as additional signalization. And let's see here, a couple other matters that I'll address in the other, in the fuller discussion.
Yeah, we can just keep it on the amendment at this time.
Okay, wonderful. So the amendment continues to go, but it provides updates to several matters that that the development has agreed to.
Okay, you've heard an explanation of amendment number 1 offered by sponsor Gadd, and it was properly seconded. Is there any discussion on the motion to amend with amendment 1? Okay, seeing none, all in favor of amendment 1, please say aye. Any voting no or abstaining? Okay, so we're back to you for a motion on your bill as amended, Ms. Gadd.
I would like to move the bill for approval.
Okay, Ms. Gadd has moved approval of the bill as amended with Amendment 1. Is there a second? Okay, we're on to discussion. Is there anything else you would like to share, Ms. Gadd, on the bill at this time?
I will wait until discussion concludes.
Okay, happy to do that. Mr. Druffel, you are next in the queue, sir. Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Vice Mayor. And with respect to Councilor Gadd, this intersection is close to what White Bridge and Harding is. It's a failed intersection on a failed road with more than 1,000 units that were going to compound the problem in this immediate area. If you remember Bellmead Plaza last year, long discussion, but the reality is it's getting worse and worse. So I have a concern, not so much for the development, but the transit plan or the traffic plan that is described. There's supposed to be a regional traffic plan that has never come to fruition from NDOT, contributions from all the different developers. And until we get that, I think continue to compound the problem when you can't get through this intersection any longer is something we urgently need. So I'll be voting no, and I think we have to send a message back at some point. When you have failed intersections and failed roads and you add 1,000 units, there's a time and place where you just can't get through, and we need solutions now. So I'll vote no. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Druffel. Transportation and Infrastructure Chair Parker, you are recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'm rising in support of this project and specifically the work that the district council members done to address as many of the concerns of the neighbors as I think could be accomplished within an SP. I was reading through the amendment and lots of good stuff in there to address concerns. As much as I am a huge fan of flea markets, sad to see those prohibited, but I don't anticipate that there ever would have been a flea market at this site to begin with. So just appreciate the district members' work on this, and it looks like a great project, so I'm happy to support.
Thank you, Mr. Parker. Mr. Horton, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. This project's located in District 24, but it's right across the street from us in District 20, so it's relevant for our district as well. And this is a good project. It's one that's been made better by the leadership of the district council member. To the concerns on traffic that's there, I'm no stranger to the traffic on White Bridge. It's, in my district, my wife and I do our grocery shopping at this location all the time. So like many of our other constituents, the way that we could make traffic worse in this district is to do nothing. And if we just sign another commercial tenant in this existing space, that will be much worse traffic than if we allow this site to be redeveloped into residential uses, which also have the benefit of providing housing for people. So very happy to vote yes on this and grateful for Councilmember Gadd's leadership on behalf of both of our districts in improving this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Horton. Ms. Gadd, going to come back to you to kind of pull that discussion together, but also let you know that at this juncture, once your first of these kind of related bills has been amended, 548. If you would like to amend your motion, it could be for the approval of 548 as amended, the approval of its companion bill 549, and as well, per special counsel, the related agenda item 82, ordinance 550, related to amending a portion of the PUD related to this project. So if you want to go ahead and make that amendment, then we can be discussing all of that together if you would like. Okay, I'm sorry, Ms. Gadd, hang on. Go ahead, ma'am.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to move that or make that a
That's
motion.
fine. Yeah, is there a second for that? Okay, all right. So now back to you for discussion on 548, 549, its companion bill, and 550, its related bill. Go ahead, Ms. Gadd.
Thank you so much, and thank you to my colleagues. And I do want to probably take the remainder of this time to really talk to the constituents of District 24 and those in the surrounding areas too. I just want to say thank you to everyone that came to every community meeting, to every other small meeting or one-on-one, and who have emailed and called and I've met with on this. It has actually very much improved this project. This is a project that has come before me, and then during this term, I found it improved greatly by those who voiced major concerns of what colleagues have also raised when we talk about traffic impact. What I loved about this project is that it provides residential in an area that that actually provides the ability for foot traffic versus car traffic for those who choose this to be a residence. And that is something that's quite unique when we're looking at developments in the district. And that in itself, reduces the amount of traffic or the amount of car trips. Commercial, which is what this is currently zoned only for, does inevitably increase those traffic footprints. This is a place that also has demonstrated that it supports people living in this community. And so with that, we have worked with the development team to probably create a little less green space in the back towards the greenway because the residents neighboring would like to see some of the building lowered. So we were able to lower that. We've also gotten private agreements to accommodate the Lions Head Homeowners Association that aren't included in this SP of what the government has authority over, but to have additional private agreements when that comes to easements, other maintenance, the use of construction. So for the construction not to be on Post Road at all, and for additional construction building requirements to be off-site, and additional notifications. that will be built. I've also gotten a commitment to have even a further location from this site, which is at Nashville State, that currently doesn't have a bus shelter. And so they've agreed to also do a covered bus shelter there, as well as a signalization and optimization. So I've been really thrilled with the amount of comments that have come back from the community. I know it won't make everyone happy, but I am thrilled to make this even better because of those comments. And with that, I'll move approval.
Thank you so much, Ms. Gadd. Is there any further discussion on these three bills in the combined motion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Any voting no? Okay, given that it is third reading, do we have to go on the board? Okay, by rule, Mr. Clerk, if you would please coordinate the vote, please, sir. And Mr. Clerk, just for clarification, it is on all three bills, please, sir, 548 having been amended with Amendment 1. Thank you, sir. Do we need to remind Chair Evans to vote, or has she already voted? Wonderful. Look at Ms. Gadd's calling you out. I mean, it's okay. It's all in good fun. Okay, all votes are in. With that, Mr. Clerk, please show the vote. All right, all three of these bills have passed on third reading. Colleagues, we have one final action regarding agenda item 58. We need to go back to that. And Ms. Gadd, you are recognized again on agenda item 58, which is ordinance BL 2024-504. That was sponsor Gadd. This was an ordinance repealing a resolution which amended another ordinance to acquire permanent and temporary easements through negotiation, condemnation, acceptance for the West End Place Stormwater Improvement Project for 5 properties located on West End Place and Central Avenue. Go ahead, Ms. Gadd.
I would like to make a motion to rescind the action of approval that we just did on consent calendar.
Okay. Is there a second? Okay. There's a motion to rescind the previous action. This was on consent and previously approved. A motion to rescind the previous action requires a 2/3 vote of the body. So as we, is there any first discussion on this motion to rescind? Seeing none, we're going to move to the vote. Everyone please be clear. All in favor of the motion to rescind, please say aye. Any voting no or abstaining? Okay, so we have rescinded the previous approval action, and then we are to you, Ms. Gadd.
I would like to withdraw.
The bill is withdrawn. Okay, and so with that, our next council meeting will be on Thursday, November the 7th. Again, hope to see you all here tomorrow at 4 o'clock regarding domestic violence special called meeting. Is there a motion to adjourn? Okay, we are adjourned.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.